I have seen dozens of women like you, and every single one of them sat right where you're sitting, crying the same tears, telling the same lies, and every single one of them lost. The gavel comes down hard enough to rattle the microphone stand. The sound punches through the courtroom like a gunshot, and the woman standing at the respondent's table does not flinch, does not blink. Her hands rest flat on the wooden surface, not gripping, not trembling. Flat, like she is measuring something no one else can see. The man on the bench leans forward, and the overhead fluorescent catches the gold frame of his glasses, throws a sliver of light across the gallery. 22 years behind that bench. 22 years of unchallenged authority, of watching people crumble under the weight of his voice alone. He is not accustomed to stillness. He is accustomed to tears. You don't even have an attorney, he continues, and the word drips with something worse than contempt. Amusement. You walked into my courtroom with a manila folder and a prayer, and you expect me to take you seriously? She does not answer. Not yet. And that silence, that absolute unbreaking silence, is the first thing in this courtroom that does not belong. Because somewhere in that manila folder, between photocopied school transcripts and a lease agreement, there are 31 entries, time-stamped, cross-referenced, cataloged with a precision that no desperate mother fighting for custody of her child would ever think to use. Every word this judge has spoken since 9:02 this morning has been logged, not in panic, but in protocol. He has no idea. He is screaming at a woman he believes is powerless, and he does not know that every syllable is evidence, that every violation is numbered, that the folder on her table is not a prayer. It is an indictment, and it has been building for 14 months. The court reporter's fingers hover above the keys, frozen mid-stroke. The transcript will later read, Fulton County Family Court, Case Number 2024-FC-3187, Transcript Excerpt, page 14, lines 6 through 9. The court. I have seen dozens of women like you. You don't deserve to be in this room. Respondent remains silent. The bailiff shifts his weight near the side door. The opposing counsel straightens his tie but does not object. The clerk behind the glass partition types slowly, deliberately, as though each keystroke costs her something. And the woman at the respondent's table, the woman in the simple dark blazer, the woman with no attorney, the woman Judge Garland Whitmore has decided is nothing, opens her notebook. Black cover. Unmarked. She writes 2 words, presses the pen down firmly, and closes it. What he doesn't know, what no one in that courtroom knows, is that every word he's just said has already been cataloged, filed, and waiting. If this satisfies the appetite, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because what happens next in this courtroom is something Judge Whitmore will remember for the rest of his career. 2 weeks earlier. The alarm is set for 5:30 a.m. Shanice Delacroix is awake at 5:20. Not startled awake, not jolted by noise or worry, simply awake, the way a body learns to be when discipline becomes reflex. Her feet touch the cold tile floor, and she is already moving. Bed made, corners tucked, hospital tight. Not military, just precise. The kind of precision that comes from years of doing things in order every morning without variation. Amara's clothes are laid out on the small dresser in the hallway. The apartment has 1 bedroom, and that bedroom belongs to the 6-year-old. Shanice sleeps on a pull-out in the living room, and the pull-out is folded back into a couch by 5:25. Shoes paired. Backpack checked. She checked it last night, but she checks it again now, running her fingers along the zipper, confirming the lunchbox seal, the water bottle cap, the homework folder. In the kitchen, she boils water for oatmeal. 2 portions. 1 with cinnamon for Amara, 1 plain for herself. While the water heats, she opens a small black notebook. Leather cover, no label, no initials. And writes the date. Below it, she writes, Drop-off. Ms. Kavanaugh on duty. License plate of vehicle parked in fire lane. Georgia tag BKR-4417. Note: same vehicle third time this week. She does not explain to herself why she writes this. She does not pause to consider whether it is strange for a mother to log license plates outside her daughter's elementary school. The pen moves with the fluency of long practice, and when she is done, she closes the notebook and tucks it into her bag. The same position every morning, left interior pocket, spine facing out. Amara emerges at 6:05, rubbing her eyes, dragging a stuffed elephant by one ear. She sits at the kitchen table, and Shanice sets the oatmeal down, kisses the top of her head, and does not rush her. They eat in the quiet of an apartment that has learned to be small without feeling cramped. The walls are clean, the countertops are clear. There is nothing extra, but nothing missing either. "Can I bring Mr. Stomps to school?" "You can bring him in the car. He stays in the car." Amara considers this negotiation, accepts it with a nod, and finishes her oatmeal. By 6:40, they are out the door. The drive to Burkhart Elementary takes 11 minutes. Shanice parks in the same spot, third row, facing the entrance, clear sightline to the front door. She walks Amara to the gate, hands her off to the morning teacher, and watches until the door closes. Then she pulls out her phone and photographs the school entrance, the parking lot, the timestamp on her screen. She has done this every morning since September, 2 months of daily photographs, filed in a folder labeled only with a date range. On the drive back, she stops at a coffee shop on Peachtree, orders black coffee, no sugar. Sits at the corner table, the one with the outlet and the wall behind her, opens her laptop, and types a password that takes 11 characters to complete. A document opens. She adds 3 lines, closes it, and shuts the laptop before the barista finishes wiping the next table. She does not look around. She does not check if anyone is watching. But her chair faces the door. By 8:15, she is home. She showers, changes into a dark blouse and slacks, professional but not conspicuous, and begins organizing a folder. Inside, Amara's school transcripts, her lease agreement, 3 months of bank statements printed on standard paper, a copy of the final divorce decree from 2 years ago, and a letter from Amara's pediatrician confirming the child is up to date on vaccinations and in excellent health. Every document is photocopied 3 times. Every copy is date-stamped in blue ink in the lower right corner. The original custody arrangement had been straightforward. Shanice received primary custody. Dominic, her ex-husband, received alternating weekends and Wednesday evenings. It had worked for 23 months without incident. Then, 6 weeks ago, a motion arrived via certified mail, filed by an attorney named Cormac Shelby on behalf of Dominic Delacroix. Emergency petition for modification of custody. Grounds: unstable living environment, inconsistent income, 3 instances of tardiness at school during the current semester. Shanice read the motion once, slowly. Read it again. Set it on the kitchen table and looked at it for a long time. Then she opened the black notebook and began a new section. That evening, after Amara was asleep, she made a phone call. The number had no name attached to it in her contacts, just a string of digits she had memorized. It rang 4 times. "It's me." Hearing moved up. "Whitmore's bench. I'll need the file by Friday." Her voice was even, clipped, stripped of emotion, like someone reading coordinates into a radio. No greeting, no small talk. The person on the other end asked a question she answered with a single word. "Yes." Then she hung up, set the phone on the table, and went back to the folder. Outside, a car passed slowly on the street below, headlights sweeping the curtains. Shanice did not look up, but her pen paused, just for a beat, before she continued writing. Bow. Tuesday morning, 8:55 a.m. Fulton County Courthouse, 3rd floor, East Wing. The hallway outside courtroom 3B smells like industrial floor cleaner and burnt coffee from the vending machine near the elevator. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. One of them flickers, casting a pale strobe across the row of plastic chairs bolted to the wall. 3 women sit along that row, separated by empty seats, each clutching paperwork in various stages of disarray. One of them is crying softly into a wad of tissues. Another stares at the wall with the fixed expression of someone who has stopped expecting anything. Shanice walks past them. She does not sit. She approaches the clerk's window, a rectangle of plexiglass with a circular speaker hole and a metal tray for passing documents. Behind the glass, Darlene Fisk occupies a swivel chair and a world of absolute bureaucratic control. Platinum hair clipped tight to her skull, reading glasses perched low on her nose, magnifying eyes that evaluate everything and approve nothing. She does not look up when Shanice stops at the window. "Case number?" Shanice gives it. Fisk types with a deliberate slowness that transforms each keystroke into an act of reluctance, as though processing this particular inquiry requires effort she has not budgeted for. "You're not on the docket until Thursday. You're in the wrong building." Shanice opens her envelope. The summons is printed on Fulton County Superior Court letterhead, case number centered, date and time in bold. Tuesday, 9 a.m., courtroom 3-B. She places it in the metal tray and angles it toward the speaker hole so Fisk can read without touching it. Fisk glances at the paper. Her expression does not change, but her typing stops. "Well, the system says Thursday." She pushes the summons back through the tray. "You'll have to sort that out with your attorney, if you have one." The "if" lands precisely where it is aimed. Shanice takes the summons back, slides it into her folder, and does not respond to the conditional. She turns toward the courtroom doors and finds them still closed, locked from the inside, a red light glowing above the handle. 10 minutes early. She stands to the side, folder against her chest, and waits. Footsteps behind her, leather soles on tile. The confident rhythm of a man who knows where he is going and expects the path to clear. "Darlene, is this the Delacroix matter? My client filed for emergency custody modification last week." The voice belongs to a man in a navy suit, carrying a leather briefcase with brass clasps. He does not look at Shanice, does not acknowledge her existence. He speaks to Fisk as though the hallway contains only 2 people. "It's on Judge Whitmore's calendar. He prefers to handle these quickly." Fisk's voice warms by exactly 2 degrees, the warmth of professional alliance, not friendliness. Cormac Shelby nods, adjusts his cuff, and takes a position on the opposite side of the hallway. He opens his briefcase on the bench and begins arranging papers with the ease of a man who has done this hundreds of times and won most of them. Shanice watches this exchange, notes the familiarity, notes the word "quickly," a word that, in family court, rarely benefits the person without a lawyer. In her notebook, she writes, 8:57 a.m. Clerk redirected me, claimed wrong date. Opposing counsel appeared to have advanced schedule access. Conversation with clerk suggested prior coordination. No attorney present for respondent. Entry number 4. She writes entry number 4 because entries 1 through 3 were logged before she ever set foot in this courthouse. The red light turns green. The bailiff opens the courtroom doors from inside. He is a big man, broad through the chest, thick through the neck, with the particular stillness of someone who has learned to occupy space as a profession. His nameplate reads, Tremaine. Court is in session, Case 2024-FC-3187. All parties, enter. Shanice walks in. The courtroom is smaller than television makes them look. Wood-paneled walls, a gallery of 6 rows, the judge's bench elevated 4 steps above the floor, high enough that anyone standing before it must look up. The American flag hangs limp in the corner. A water pitcher sits on the bench beside a gavel, the wood of the handle worn smooth by years of use. Shelby takes the petitioner's table on the left, papers already arranged, pen uncapped, ready. The respondent's table, the right side, is empty. No chair pulled out, no water glass. Shanice pulls the chair herself, sets her folder down, and sits with her back straight, hands flat on the table. A door opens behind the bench. Judge Garland Whitmore enters from his chambers. tall, silver-haired, glasses with gold frames that catch the overhead light. He wears his robe like a uniform, not a costume. 22 years of wearing it have made it part of his body, an extension of his authority. He does not look at the gallery. He does not acknowledge the court reporter or the clerk. He sits, adjusts his glasses, and picks up the file. The gavel falls. One strike. The sound is not loud. It is precise. Case 2024-FC-3187. Delacroix versus Delacroix. Respondent present? Present, Your Honor. I'm representing myself. Whitmore's eyes drop from the file to the woman at the respondent's table. The pause that follows is not thoughtful. It is evaluative. His gaze travels from her face to her blouse to her folder to her hands. He takes off his glasses, cleans them with a cloth he keeps beneath the bench, and puts them back on. The entire performance takes 6 seconds and communicates precisely what it intends to. Pro se, of course. 2 words, but the emphasis on of course, the slight rise in pitch, the almost smile that flickers at the corner of his mouth, turns them into a verdict delivered before testimony has begun. Shelby does not react. Fisk, seated at the clerk's station to the left of the bench, types without looking up. The court reporter's fingers rest on the keys. Tremaine stands near the side door, arms folded. Mr. Shelby, present your client's petition. Shelby rises. His voice is smooth, practiced, deferential to the bench in a way that signals long familiarity. He outlines the grounds. Shanice has moved twice in 18 months. Her income is listed as freelance consulting, no W-2, no employer on record. Amara was tardy to school 3 times during the fall semester. His client, Dominic Delacroix, is requesting a temporary modification of primary custody pending a full evidentiary hearing. Accompanying the petition, Shelby continues, is a home assessment conducted by Fulton County Division of Family and Children Services, authored by CPS investigator Warren Price. He slides a document across his table toward the bench. Tremaine collects it and places it in front of Whitmore, who flips through it with the speed of a man who has already decided what it says. Shanice raises her hand. You'll speak when I tell you to speak. The words cut across the courtroom like a blade drawn across glass. Georgia Uniform, Superior Court Rule 24. 7 guarantees a pro se litigant the right to respond, to present evidence, and to object, the same procedural rights afforded to any attorney. What Whitmore has just done is not a matter of courtroom management. It is a denial of due process, delivered with the casual authority of a man who expects no one to notice. Shanice's hand lowers. Her face does not change. But under the table, the black notebook is open on her lap. She writes without looking down. 9:12 a.m. Denied opportunity to respond. Rule 24.7. Documented. Not wrote down. Not noted. Documented. The word sits in her notebook like a foundation stone. Functional, load-bearing, invisible to everyone in the room. Whitmore reads the CPS report, nods twice, adjusts his glasses. Mr. Shelby, your client's petition seems well-founded. Ms. Delacroix, I'm inclined to grant temporary custody modification pending a full hearing in 60 days. The air in the courtroom changes. One of the women in the gallery, a stranger, here for a different case, inhales sharply. Shelby permits himself a fractional nod, the kind of gesture that says, I expected this, but I'm too professional to celebrate. Shanice stands. Your Honor, I haven't been given the opportunity to review the CPS report or present my evidence. Under Georgia Code Section 19-9-3, both parties are entitled to present testimony and evidence before any modification of custody. Silence, the kind that fills a room from the floor up, pressing against the walls, compressing the air until breathing becomes conscious effort. Shelby turns to look at her, and this time he looks, not at her clothes, not at her folder, at her. Because pro se litigants do not cite Georgia Code by section number. pro se litigants cry, or shout, or plead, or sit in confused silence while the system rolls over them. They do not quote statutes in measured tones. Whitmore leans forward. The bench creaks. "Are you trying to tell me how to run my courtroom?" "No, Your Honor. I'm asking the court to follow its own procedure." The sentence lands without force, without heat, without a single degree of anger. It is a factual statement delivered in a factual tone, and it is devastating precisely because it leaves no room for the judge to claim he has been attacked. Shanice has not raised her voice, has not pointed, has not accused. She has asked the court to do what the court is required to do. And Garland Whitmore, who has spent 22 years expecting submission from people standing where Shanice stands, hears something else entirely. He hears defiance. He hears a challenge to the hierarchy that keeps his world in order. "Let me make something very clear." His voice drops low, and the drop is worse than shouting. "I have been on this bench for 22 years. I don't need a—" He stops. The word he almost says hangs in the silence like smoke, visible to everyone, acknowledged by no one. The court reporter's fingers freeze above the keys. Fisk's typing stops. Tremaine's arms unfold, then refold. The air in the room is thick with what everyone heard and no one will name. A pro se litigant lecturing me on Georgia code. He substituted the word. But the pause, that 1 second, loaded, unmistakable pause, has already spoken for him. Shanice does not react. Her expression remains the same, but in the notebook on her lap she writes, 9:18 a.m., hostile remark. Hesitation suggests racial qualifier suppressed, noted. Whitmore sets his pen down. The sound it makes against the bench is small and final. This court is in recess until Thursday. The respondent is encouraged to obtain legal counsel. His eyes fix on Shanice. "You'll need one." The gavel falls. Whitmore rises and exits through the back door without looking at anyone. Shelby gathers his papers with the quiet efficiency of a man who has just won a preliminary round. Fisk begins typing again, fast now, as though making up for lost time. Tremaine holds the side door open and waits for the gallery to empty. Shanice closes her notebook. 46 minutes in that courtroom, and she already had 9 entries, 9 violations, 9 timestamps. She didn't need a lawyer. She needed a witness. Wednesday morning, 10:32 a.m. Fulton County Courthouse, Clerk's Office. Shanice carries a folder that weighs more than it did yesterday. Inside, Amara's complete academic transcript from Burkhart Elementary, attendance record, grades, teacher comments, a letter from Ms. Kavanaugh, Amara's first-grade teacher, confirming the child is well-adjusted, engaged, and consistently prepared. A signed lease agreement for the apartment on Langford Avenue, effective through August 2025. 3 months of bank statements highlighted in yellow at every deposit. Freelance consulting income, regular and traceable. And a letter from Dr. Okonkwo, Amara's pediatrician, dated 4 days ago, confirming excellent health, current vaccinations, and no concerns. Every document is photocopied 3 times. Every copy is date-stamped in blue ink. The originals are in a separate sleeve with a chain of custody note in Shanice's handwriting. Originals retained by respondent. Copies submitted to court, October 9th, 2024. She approaches the clerk's window. Fisk is there. Same seat, same glasses, same expression of practiced inconvenience. "I need to file response documents for case 2024-FC-3187. Fisk does not look up immediately. She finishes whatever she is typing, or pretends to finish, and then raises her eyes with the deliberate slowness of a woman who controls time within a 6-foot radius. "These need to be filed through the e-filing system. We don't accept paper submissions after January 2024. Shanice does not argue. She does not raise her voice. She turns 45 degrees and points to the notice board mounted on the wall directly behind Fisk's station, a bulletin board layered with court announcements, laminated policies, and one document printed on Fulton County letterhead in 14-point font. Administrative Order 2023-47, effective September 1, 2023. Quote, self-represented parties may file documents in paper form at the clerk's window during regular business hours. End quote. Fisk's expression does not change. Her jaw tightens, a millimeter, maybe two, but her face holds. She takes the folder through the metal tray and places it not in the filed bin to her left, where incoming documents are processed, but in the pending review tray on her right, where things go to wait. I'll process it when I get to it. We're backed up. Shanice looks at the pending review tray. It contains two other folders, both thin. The filed bin contains at least a dozen. She does not comment on the disparity. She nods once and walks away. At 4:15 that afternoon, she calls the courthouse general line from her apartment. I'm calling to confirm that documents were filed today in case 2024-FC-3187. Keys clicking. A pause. I'm showing no filings recorded for that case number today. Shanice closes her eyes, opens them, writes in the notebook. Documents submitted 11:40 a.m., October 9th, 2024. Clerk Fisk received. Not entered into system by 4:15 p.m. Pattern, gatekeeping. Entry number 12. The next morning, Thursday. She returns to the clerk's window at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the courthouse opens to the public. Fisk has just arrived, coffee in hand, purse still on her shoulder. I need a date-stamped receipt for the documents I submitted yesterday. Fisk sets her coffee down. The look she gives Shanice is no longer dismissive. It is re-evaluating. Something has shifted. People who come to this window do not come back the next day asking for stamped receipts. They accept delays. They trust the system. They do not track timelines. Fisk stamps the copy. Shanice photographs the stamp with her phone. Date, time, case number, clerk's initials visible in the frame. Thank you. Shanice puts the phone in her bag and turns to leave. Ms. Delacroix. She stops. Fisk is holding the coffee with both hands, watching her through the plexiglass. Judge Whitmore has been on this bench a very long time. He runs his courtroom the way he sees fit. Most people who come through here learn to work with that. I appreciate the information. Shanice walks away. She does not look back, but she writes in the notebook as she walks. Entry number 13. Clerk Fisk issued unsolicited advisory regarding Judge Whitmore's authority. Tone, cautionary. Possible discouragement of further procedural challenges. In the hallway, near the elevator, she passes a doorway and catches the tail end of a conversation. Two voices, Fisk's, drifting from the clerk's office, and a man's voice she recognizes. She came back, filed everything paper, cited the admin order. She's not what I expected. Doesn't matter. Shelby's voice, clipped and confident. Whitmore already made up his mind. Thursday will be quick. Shanice does not slow, does not turn. Her stride stays even, her face forward. But Shelby sees her. He steps out of the clerk's office doorway and falls into step beside her, not walking with her, walking at her, his stride deliberately longer, his briefcase swinging close enough that it bumps her bag. Ms. Delacroix, a word of advice, off the record. She does not stop. He keeps pace. You're wasting everyone's time, mine, the judge's, and most importantly, yours. Dominic loves his daughter. He can provide stability, a two-parent household, a yard, a good school district. What you're doing, this performance, the citations, the filings, it's not impressing anyone. She reaches the elevator, presses the button, does not look at him. People in your situation. He pauses, and the pause is shaped exactly like Whitmore's pause, exactly like Tremaine's pause, the same loaded millisecond that everyone in this courthouse seems to have been trained in. People representing themselves usually realize at some point that cooperation is better than confrontation. The elevator arrives. Shanice steps in, turns to face the doors. Shelby stands in the hallway, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his briefcase. Think about it. The doors close. In the elevator, alone, Shanice opens the notebook and writes, 10:03 a.m. Overheard conversation between Clerk Fisk and opposing counsel Shelby. Discussion of respondent's filing behavior and anticipated case outcome. Indicates pre-existing relationship and shared expectation of adverse ruling. Ex parte communication concerns. Shelby subsequently approached respondent with unsolicited settlement pressure. Tone: intimidating. Implied demographic reference via pause pattern consistent with prior incidents. Entry number 14. When she returns the next morning to submit additional filings, Fisk sees her approaching the window and stands abruptly. Her hand catches the sliding plexiglass panel and pulls it shut. Hard enough that the frame rattles. Hard enough that the woman waiting behind Shanice flinches. Through the closed glass, Fisk mouths two words. Wait there. Shanice waits. 7 minutes. Fisk processes another person's paperwork, makes a phone call, drinks from her coffee, then, with exaggerated reluctance, slides the panel open 2 inches, barely enough to pass documents through. What? Shanice slides the papers through the gap. Fisk takes them, stamps them, pushes the receipt back through the 2-inch opening so roughly that the paper crumples against the frame. Next, Shanice takes the crumpled receipt, smooths it, photographs it, and walks away. Entry number 15. If you think Shanice is just a mother fighting for her daughter, keep listening, because the evidence she's building goes far beyond this custody case. Thursday morning, 8:50 a.m. Courtroom 3B. The room is fuller today. 2 additional cases are scheduled after the Delacroix matter, and the gallery holds a scattering of litigants and their families. A woman in the second row bounces a toddler on her knee. A man in the back row reads a folded newspaper. The court reporter sets up her equipment with the mechanical ease of daily routine. Shelby is already seated. Same table, same arrangement, same confidence. Beside his briefcase, a new document, the CPS report, flagged with colored tabs, ready for presentation. Shanice enters at 8:52. She takes her seat at the respondent's table, places her folder down, and opens the black notebook to a fresh page. She writes the date, the time, and a single word: hearing. Whitmore enters at 9:01. Gavel. The courtroom stands, then sits. We're resuming case 2024-FC-3187. Ms. Delacroix, I see you've chosen to continue without counsel. That's correct, Your Honor. His tone carries the faint texture of pity, manufactured, performative, designed to establish for the record and the gallery that he offered her a chance to protect herself, and she declined. Very well. Mr. Shelby, you may present your evidence. Shelby rises and introduces the CPS report. Warren Price, licensed clinical social worker, Fulton County Division of Family and Children Services. Home assessment dated October 2nd, 2024. Shelby reads the key finding aloud, his voice projecting just enough to fill the room without straining. During the home visit conducted on September 28, 2024, the residence appeared disorganized, with limited food supplies and no designated study area for the minor child. He places the report on the bench. Whitmore receives it, reads the paragraph, nods. Shanice stands. Your Honor, I'd like to respond to the CPS report and present contradicting evidence. Whitmore's pen taps the bench twice. The sound is rhythmic, impatient. Make it brief. The report states that CPS investigator Price visited my home on September 28, 2024, at approximately 9:30 a.m. I have time-stamped photographs of my apartment taken that same morning at 7:14 a.m., 2 hours before the stated visit, showing a fully stocked kitchen, a designated study area with desk, lamp, and school supplies, and the apartment in clean, organized condition. She opens her folder and removes 4 printed photographs, each with a digital timestamp visible in the corner. She places them in the metal document tray between the tables. Additionally, I have doorbell camera footage from September 28th. The camera recorded every individual who approached my front door that day. The mail carrier arrived at 10:15 a.m. My neighbor's dog walker passed at 11:02 a.m. A delivery driver approached at 2:47 p.m. She pauses, lets the list settle. Every person who approached my door that day was recorded, except CPS investigator Price. The courtroom shifts, not dramatically. A small collective inhale, a rustle of fabric, the particular quality of attention that sharpens when something unexpected has entered the room. Shelby's pen stops moving. Fisk's typing slows. Whitmore looks at the photographs, then at Shanice, then at the photographs again. These could have been taken at any time. Timestamps can be altered. I'm prepared to submit the original image files with embedded EXIF metadata for forensic verification, Your Honor. I'm also prepared to provide the full doorbell camera log, which is stored on a cloud server with an unalterable timestamp chain. Whitmore's jaw tightens. He turns to Shelby. Mr. Shelby, is your CPS witness available? Shelby hesitates. The hesitation is small. A blink, a shift in weight. But it is there. Mr. Price was not subpoenaed for today's hearing, Your Honor. Then I'll reserve ruling on the CPS report until the witness can be examined. Whitmore says it quickly, as though disposing of an inconvenience. Moving on, he has conceded nothing, acknowledged nothing. But he has also not dismissed Shanice's evidence, because doing so on the record, in a case that now includes forensic timestamps and doorbell camera logs, would create exactly the kind of appellate foothold that even Garland Whitmore knows to avoid. Shanice sits down. She writes in the notebook. 9:23 a.m. CPS report challenged. Judge reserved ruling. Opposing counsel unprepared for evidentiary response. Court did not address discrepancy. Entry number 16. The rest of the hearing moves quickly. Whitmore schedules a full evidentiary hearing for October 24th, 2 weeks away, and orders both parties to submit witness lists and exhibits by October 18th. He addresses Shanice directly. Ms. Delacroix, if you insist on representing yourself, I expect you to comply with every deadline, every procedural requirement, and every order this court issues. Failure to do so will result in sanctions. Am I clear? Perfectly clear, Your Honor. Good. Because this court does not have patience for litigants who waste its time. He looks at her when he says, waste its time. He means her. Everyone in the room understands he means her. He picks up the stack of documents Shanice submitted, the photographs, the doorbell camera log summary, the objection to the CPS report, and holds them over the edge of the bench. Then he drops them. Not hands them to the clerk. Not places them in the record. Drops them. From 4 feet up, off the edge of the elevated bench, so the papers scatter across the floor between the bench and the respondent's table. Clerk will retain what's relevant. The photographs land face down on the tile. The doorbell camera summary slides under the table. Shanice's carefully organized, date-stamped, triple-copied evidence package fans across the floor like a hand of cards thrown down in disgust. Nobody moves. Shelby looks at his own table. Fisk types. Tremaine stares straight ahead. The court reporter's fingers rest motionless on the keys. She is deciding, in real time, how to transcribe the sound of papers hitting the floor. She will later record it as, Court returns respondent's submissions. Shanice bends down. She picks up each page, one by one, on her hands and knees on the courtroom floor. She does not hurry. She does not leave any behind. She straightens each sheet, aligns the edges, and places them back in the folder in the correct order, because she numbered them, because she always numbers them, because the system relies on people being too humiliated to maintain their records after they've been scattered on the ground. The woman in the gallery with the toddler watches this. She watches a mother kneel on a courtroom floor to pick up evidence that a judge threw from the bench. The toddler fusses. The woman presses the child's face against her shoulder so the child will not see what she is seeing. When Shanice stands, her folder is intact. Her face is unchanged. Her hands are steady. In the notebook, she writes, 9:31 a.m. Judge Whitmore dropped respondent's submitted documents from bench onto courtroom floor. Documents recovered intact. Conduct inconsistent with Georgia Code of Judicial Conduct. Canon 2, Rule 2.8. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to litigants. Entry number 18. The gavel falls. Court is adjourned. Outside, in the hallway, Shanice nearly collides with a man she has not seen before. Warren Price. 40 years old, trimmed beard, the worn expression of someone who has done social work long enough to stop caring about the outcomes. He carries a case file under one arm and walks with the distracted urgency of a man running late for something he does not want to attend. Mr. Price. He stops, turns. He does not recognize her. She is just another face in the courthouse hallway, another case number, another file. Your report says you visited my home at 9:30 a.m. on September 28th. My doorbell camera shows no one approached my door that morning. His eyes narrow. Recognition arrives. Not of her face, but of the case. His grip tightens on the file. I conducted the visit as documented. If your camera malfunctioned, that's not my concern. It didn't malfunction. It recorded the mail carrier at 10:15, my neighbor's dog walker at 11:02, and a delivery driver at 2:47. Every person who approached my door, except you. The hallway is not empty. 2 clerks walk past. A woman with a stroller navigates around them. A security guard stands near the metal detector, 20 feet away, within earshot of raised voices but not whispered ones. Price looks at Shanice. His expression runs through a sequence: surprise, calculation, decision, in under 3 seconds. I have nothing further to discuss outside of a formal proceeding. He steps around her and walks toward the elevator. His shoulders are tighter than they were 30 seconds ago. His stride is faster. She hits something. Shanice watches him go. Writes in the notebook. 9:41 a.m. Confronted, CPS, Investigator Price, September 28th. Home visit discrepancy. Price refused to address. Defensive posture. Declined further communication. Entry number 17. Altiaz. The next 10 days unfold in a pattern of escalation so gradual that each individual incident, examined alone, might seem minor. It is only in accumulation that the shape emerges. A tightening, a constriction, a systematic narrowing of Shanice Delacroix's space within the Fulton County family court system. On Friday, October 11th, Shanice receives a motion from Shelby requesting a subpoena for her medical records. The grounds cited psychological fitness of the primary custodial parent as it relates to the welfare of the minor child. There is no affidavit from a mental health professional, no documented concern from the school, the pediatrician, or CPS. The motion is a fishing expedition, designed not to find evidence, but to force Shanice to either hire a lawyer to fight it or surrender private records that can be mined for anything useful. Shanice files a response the same day. Paper filing, per Administrative Order 2023-47. She writes, Respondent objects to petitioner's subpoena under Georgia Code Section 24-12-21, which requires a particularized showing of relevance before compulsory disclosure of medical records. Petitioner has provided no affidavit, no expert opinion, and no factual basis establishing that respondent's medical history bears any relevance to the custody determination at issue. It is a clean, precise legal argument, not brilliant, but correct. And correctness, in a courtroom that has been operating on assumption, is a form of disruption. Shelby reads the objection. He reads it twice. In the hallway after the filing, he stops near the water fountain and makes a phone call. The words that carry are fragments. Not what we expected. She cited 24-12-21. No, not a paralegal. She's pro se. I don't know, Cormac, but this isn't... He sees Shanice approaching the elevator and lowers his voice. The call ends. On Monday, October 14th, Whitmore rules on the subpoena. In chambers, not in open court. A procedural choice that eliminates the gallery, the court reporter, and the public record. Granted, Ms. Delacroix, you'll produce the records within 14 days. Shanice stands in the small, wood-paneled room, Whitmore behind his desk, Shelby in a leather chair, Tremaine at the door. 3 men and a closed door. She notes the absence of the court reporter. Your Honor, is this proceeding being transcribed? Whitmore removes his glasses, cleans them, puts them back on. The gesture has become a signature, a punctuation mark that signals displeasure. This is an informal conference, Ms. Delacroix. Not every conversation in this courthouse requires a transcript. Georgia Uniform Superior Court Rule 21.1 provides that all proceedings in which substantive orders are issued shall be recorded. A subpoena compelling the production of medical records is a substantive order. The room goes quiet. Shelby looks at Whitmore. Whitmore looks at Shanice. Tremaine shifts his weight at the door. A small movement, but the floorboard creaks, and in the silence, the creak is loud. The order stands, Whitmore says. You may file a written objection if you wish. Now, are we done? Shanice picks up her folder. I'll note for the record, or for whatever substitute exists in the absence of one, that this order was issued without a court reporter present and without the particularized showing required by statute. She walks toward the door. Tremaine does not move aside immediately. He stands in the doorway, filling it, forcing her to stop 2 feet away and wait. 3 seconds. 4. 5. Then he steps aside, not fully, just enough for her to pass if she angles her shoulder. She angles her shoulder. She does not touch him. But the narrowness of the passage is deliberate, and they both know it. In the hallway she writes, 2:47 p.m. Subpoena granted in chambers. No court reporter. No recording. Judge Whitmore denied request for transcript. Bailiff Tremaine obstructed exit. Physical positioning. Deliberate delay. Entry number 21. That evening, Amara asleep. The apartment quiet. Shanice calls the number again. He granted the subpoena. No foundation, no affidavit. I have 14 days. The voice on the other end is low, measured, unhurried. How many entries now? 22, across 4 days of proceedings. A pause, long enough that Shanice checks the screen to confirm the call is still connected. I'll be there next Thursday. Don't file anything else until then. The call ends. Shanice sets the phone down and looks at the notebook. 22 entries, 4 court days. She has documented worse in her career. Longer patterns, deeper rot, more entrenched resistance. But she has never done it while her own child's future was the thing at stake. The personal and the professional have never overlapped like this, and the overlap creates a pressure she has not yet figured out how to name. She closes the notebook, checks the lock on the front door, checks it again, goes to the hallway, and stands in Amara's doorway, watching her daughter sleep. One arm flung above her head, Mr. Stomps wedged between the pillow and the wall. Tomorrow she will go back to the courthouse. Tomorrow she will file her witness list and her exhibit index. Tomorrow she will stand in front of Garland Whitmore and be quiet and precise and everything that 22 years on the bench has taught him to dismiss. But tonight she is just a mother standing in a doorway, terrified of losing the only thing that has ever mattered more than the work. Wednesday, October 16th, 2:18 p.m., Fulton County Courthouse, 3rd floor hallway. Shanice exits courtroom 3B after a brief scheduling conference. The hearing is confirmed for October 24th, 8 days away. Whitmore was curt, efficient, visibly irritated by the growing thickness of the case file. Shelby submitted his witness list. Dominic Delacroix, Warren Price, and a child psychologist Shanice has never heard of. Shanice submitted hers. Amara's teacher, Miss Kavanaugh, Doctor. Okonkwo, and herself. She walks toward the main hallway elevator, folder under her arm, notebook in her bag. The corridor is quiet. Mid-afternoon lull, most hearings finished. The vending machine crowd thinned to one woman feeding quarters into the coffee slot. Tremaine steps out from the doorway of a storage room she did not know existed. Judge wants you to use the south exit from now on, public entrance only. Shanice stops. The south exit adds 10 minutes to her walk, routes through the underground parking garage, poorly lit, no security cameras until the street-level door, and deposits her on the opposite side of the building from the bus stop. The south exit adds 10 minutes and goes through the parking garage. I'll use the main hallway like everyone else. It wasn't a suggestion. He steps forward. Not a lunge. A drift. The slow occupation of space that large men learn to weaponize. One step closes the distance to 3 feet. At 3 feet, his size becomes a physical fact. 6'2", 220 pounds, the badge on his chest at her eye level. She can smell his coffee. She can feel the air compress between them. Shanice does not step back, does not step forward. She shifts her weight, evenly distributed, center of gravity low, feet shoulder-width apart. Not a fighting stance, a standing one's ground stance, the posture of someone who has been trained to occupy space under pressure and make the pressure regret the approach. If the court issues a written order restricting my access to public hallways, I'll comply. Until then, I'm walking this way. She walks past him. Her shoulder angles just enough to avoid contact. Precise, calibrated, neither yielding nor provoking. Tremaine's hand catches her elbow. Not a grab. A redirect, the way a bouncer steers someone toward a different exit. His palm is flat against the back of her arm, fingers curling around the joint, and the force is enough to change her trajectory by 30 degrees, aiming her toward the stairwell door instead of the main hallway. I said the south exit. Shanice stops. She does not pull away. She looks down at his hand on her arm, then up at his face, and she speaks with a clarity that carries to the vending machine woman 20 feet away. Take your hand off me. The woman at the vending machine turns. The security guard near the metal detector looks up from his phone. A door opens somewhere down the hall and footsteps stop. Tremaine releases her arm. His hand drops to his side. For a moment, his expression holds. The hard mask of institutional authority, of a man who is accustomed to directing bodies through space without consequence. Then something shifts in his eyes. A calculation. He steps back. Shanice walks past him, through the main hallway, past the vending machine, past the woman who watched, past the security guard who saw. And she does not rub her elbow, does not touch the place where his hand was, does not give him the satisfaction of a visible wound. She writes in the notebook without stopping. 2:22 p.m. Tremaine, south exit directive, no written order cited. Physical contact. Hand on left elbow, redirecting force applied. Approximately 2 seconds. Verbal command repeated. Witness present at vending machine. Security guard in visual range. Entry number 24. 2 days later. Friday, October 18th. The elevator. Shanice stands at the third-floor elevator bank, waiting for the car. The display shows the elevator stopped at the first floor, doors open. She checks her phone. 12:47 p.m. She has 18 minutes before the filing deadline for supplemental exhibits. Footsteps behind her. The particular cadence she has learned to recognize. Heavy, even. Deliberate. The elevator arrives. Doors open. She steps in. Tremaine steps in behind her. The doors close. He presses the button for the first floor. The elevator descends, passing the second floor, and then stops. The emergency stop button is depressed. Tremaine's hand is still on it. The fluorescent light in the elevator is blue-white and unforgiving. It turns everything into surfaces. The steel walls, the laminate floor, the red emergency phone behind its small glass panel. And in the upper corner, a black dome housing a security camera, its tiny red indicator light blinking steadily. Judge Whitmore has been on this bench since before you were born. He's fair. He's respected. And he doesn't appreciate being quoted statutes by people who... The pause. Again. The same pause Whitmore left on Tuesday. The same loaded silence. The same absent word. The same deliberate substitution. Who don't understand how things work around here. The elevator is approximately 6 feet by 6 feet. Tremaine fills roughly a third of it. Shanice is pressed against the rear wall, not by force but by geometry. The space between them is less than 2 feet. Are you aware that this elevator has a functioning security camera, Mr. Tremaine? His eyes lift. He sees the dome, the blinking red light. His jaw works. A grinding motion, molars against molars, and his hand finds the emergency stop button again. He releases it. The elevator shudders and resumes its descent. First floor. Doors open. Shanice steps out. Does not run. Does not look back. Walks at the same pace she entered. Measured, unhurried, controlled. Behind her, the elevator doors close with Tremaine still inside. In the stairwell, out of sight, Shanice leans against the wall. Her hands are shaking. Not her voice, not her face, not her posture, her hands. She presses them flat against her thighs until the trembling stops. 15 seconds. Then she opens the notebook. Entry number 27. Elevator incident. Tremaine. Implicit threat. Confined space. Emergency stop engaged at approximately 12:48 p.m. Resumed at 12:49 p.m. Duration, approximately 75 seconds. Camera present. Request footage via FOIA. Fulton County Courthouse elevator. Camera number 3 east. She files the supplemental exhibits with 6 minutes to spare. Fisk stamps them without comment. No redirection, no delays. Something in the clerk's behavior has shifted, not toward friendliness, but toward caution. Fisk processes the documents in real time, enters them into the system while Shanice watches, and provides a stamped receipt without being asked. Small progress, the kind that feels like nothing and means everything. Saturday, October 19th, 11:23 a.m. Shanice's apartment building, ground floor lobby. Shanice comes through the front entrance carrying 2 bags of groceries. Amara walks beside her, holding a carton of orange juice with both hands, concentrating on not dropping it. The lobby is small. Mailboxes on one wall, a security door that buzzes open with a key fob, a single elevator that has been broken for 3 weeks. Warren Price is standing by the mailboxes. He is not a resident. He does not have a key fob. He does not have a clipboard or a case folder or any of the tools that would explain why a CPS investigator is standing in the lobby of a building he has supposedly already visited. Miss Delacroix. Shanice stops. Her body shifts. Groceries repositioned to her left arm, right hand free. Amara moved gently to her other side, further from Price. The movement is automatic, unhesitant, and completed before conscious thought forms. Mr. Price, this is unexpected. I need to conduct a follow-up assessment, standard procedure when a case is pending. Standard procedure requires 48 hours written notice and scheduling through the DFCS office. You're at my home unannounced on a Saturday. Price steps forward, 1 step forward. His jaw is set, his eyes narrowed, and his voice drops below conversational volume, the register of a man who wants to be heard by one person and not by others. Let me make this easy for you. I can come in now, have a friendly look around, and write a report that says everything is fine. Or I can go back to the office Monday morning and recommend an emergency removal hearing based on what, Mr. Price? Based on my professional assessment that this child is in an environment that presents ongoing risk. Amara tugs Shanice's sleeve. Mama, who is that man? Shanice kneels, eye level with her daughter. Her voice is warm and steady in a way that costs her everything. He's someone from work, baby. Go upstairs and wait by our door. I'll be right behind you. Amara looks at Price, looks at her mother. Something in the child's expression says she understands more than she is supposed to. She takes the key fob from Shanice's hand and walks to the security door, presses it, and disappears up the stairwell. The door clicks shut behind her. Shanice stands, faces Price. The groceries are on the floor now, set down, not dropped. You just threatened to remove my child from my home in front of her. That is a violation of DFCS Policy Manual, Section 2104.3. All communications regarding potential removal must be directed to the custodial parent outside the presence of the minor. Price's face changes. The confidence cracks. Not much, a hairline fracture, but visible. He expected tears. He expected panic. He expected the tools that have worked on every other mother in every other lobby. I'm documenting this interaction, Shanice continues. Date, time, location, your statements, and the fact that you arrived without notice, without a scheduled appointment, and attempted to conduct an assessment without proper authorization. If you'd like to schedule a visit through proper DFCS channels with the required 48 hours written notice, you are welcome to contact me through the court. Price's hand moves, fast, instinctive, reaching for her arm. His fingers close around her wrist, not hard enough to bruise, hard enough to stop her from turning away. Listen to me. Shanice does not pull, does not yank. She looks down at his hand on her wrist, then looks up at his face, and the look she gives him carries a weight that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with precision. You are touching me without my consent. That is battery under Georgia Code Section 16-5-23. Remove your hand. 3 seconds. His fingers release. He steps back. His breathing is faster now. The shallow, choppy breathing of a man who has just realized he made a mistake in a place where mistakes are recorded. Because the lobby has a camera. Small, mounted above the mailboxes, angled toward the front door. The red light blinks steadily. Price follows her gaze and sees it. This conversation is over, Shanice says. I'll expect formal correspondence from your office if a follow-up assessment is warranted. She picks up the groceries, walks to the security door, does not look back, does not hurry. Upstairs, in the apartment, Amara is sitting on the hallway floor with Mr. Stomps in her lap. Her eyes are wide. Is everything okay, Mama? Shanice sets the groceries on the counter, kneels in front of her daughter, and pulls her close. She holds her for 8 seconds, long enough to feel Amara's heartbeat against her own chest, fast and small like a bird's. Everything is fine. Let's put the groceries away. Later, after Amara is occupied with coloring at the kitchen table, Shanice goes to the bathroom, closes the door, and sits on the edge of the tub. She looks at her wrist. No mark, no redness, but she can still feel the pressure of his fingers, the 5-point constellation of a grip that crossed every boundary Price was trained to respect. She opens the notebook. Entry number 25, Saturday, October 19, 2024. Unannounced visit by CPS investigator Warren Price to personal residence. No 48-hour notice per DFCS Policy Manual. 2104.3. Price made removal threat in presence of minor child. Physical contact initiated by Price. Grip on left wrist, approximately 3 seconds. Lobby security camera present. Timestamp approximately 11:24 a.m. Request footage via building management. She writes one additional line. Amara witnessed partial interaction. She is safe. She asked if everything was okay. I told her it was. The pen pauses. Then she adds, "It will be." Sunday, October 20th. Shanice does not go to the courthouse. She spends the day with Amara, a trip to Piedmont Park, the duck pond, ice cream from the cart near the playground. They sit on a bench and watch a man juggle tennis balls badly while his daughter cheers. Amara laughs. Shanice laughs with her. When they get home, Shanice requests the lobby security footage through her building's management office. The property manager, a tired woman named Gloria, who has seen everything tenants can do to each other, watches the relevant 30 seconds on her office monitor. You want me to save that? I want a copy, date stamped, and I want a written confirmation that the footage is from an unaltered, continuous recording. Gloria looks at her with the expression of someone who has just recategorized a tenant from quiet single mother to someone you do not want to cross. Give me an hour. The footage arrives in Shanice's email at 4:12 p.m. She downloads it, saves it to the USB drive, uploads it to the cloud server, and writes the access credentials in the notebook. Entry number 26. Monday, October 21st. 7:42 p.m. Shanice's apartment. Amara is asleep. The apartment is quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a neighbor's television playing through the wall. Shanice sits at the kitchen table, laptop open, the blue glow of the screen casting shadows across the black notebook beside it. The FOIA responses arrived today. 3 separate requests, 3 separate packets. She opens them in order. The first is the elevator footage. The file is .mp4, no audio. The timestamp in the corner reads, Fulton County Courthouse, elevator camera, number 3-East, October 18, 2024, 12:47:22 to 12:49:03. The angle is high and slightly fisheyed, the way security cameras always are, designed for identification, not cinematography. She watches herself enter the elevator, watches Tremaine enter behind her, watches his hand reach for the emergency stop button at 12:47:38. The elevator jerks to a halt. She watches the 75 seconds that follow. Tremaine leaning forward, his mouth moving, her body still, her chin slightly raised. No audio, but the body language is a language of its own. At 12:49:03, the elevator moves again. She watches herself exit, watches the doors close on Tremaine standing alone in the steel box, head tilted slightly, staring at the camera he did not remember was there. She saves the file, copies it to a USB drive, copies it to a cloud server, writes the access credentials in the notebook, encoded in a shorthand only she can read. The second packet is the email. FOIA request response, Fulton County Superior Court Administrative Office. Email dated August 14, 2024. From D. Fisk, Court Clerk 3. To redacted. Subject line. Whitmore Calendar, Priority Cases. Shanice reads the body text, and her hands stop moving. Per your request, I've moved the Thompson and Delacroix matters to Judge Whitmore's docket. Both fit the profile. Both fit the profile. She reads it again. 3 times. The words do not change. Fit the profile. What profile? Whose profile? The recipient's email address is blacked out. A solid rectangle of FOIA redaction, the kind that means either the sender's identity is protected or someone decided it should be. She writes, Email evidence, Fisk, August 14, 2024. Cases selectively assigned to Whitmore docket. Phrase fit the profile suggests criteria-based case routing. Recipient redacted. Who requested the transfer? Who defines the profile? Entry number 29. The third packet is the complaint log. Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission, Public Records Request Response. Complaints filed against Judge Garland R. Whitmore, Fulton County Superior Court, Family Division. Total complaints in preceding 18 months. 7. Disposition. 5 dismissed without investigation. 2 pending review. Complainant demographics were disclosed. 6 of 7 complainants identified as African American women. 7 complaints. 18 months. 6 of 7 filed by black women. 5 dismissed. No investigation, no hearing, no follow-up. 2 marked pending review with no deadline and no status update. Shanice sets the packet down. She looks at the numbers. She has spent 14 months inside this system, longer than most of the women who filed those complaints. She has watched the pattern form from the inside, documented each thread, each coincidence, each isolated incident that looks exactly like the last one. 7 complaints, 5 dismissed, 2 pending, and a system that responds to complaints about itself by filing them in a drawer and waiting for the complainant to give up. She closes the laptop, opens the notebook to the current page, draws a line beneath the last entry and writes, Complaint log confirms pattern, systematic, demographic, documented, 14 months. 30 entries. Sufficient for formal referral. Show. Tuesday, October 22nd, 1:12 p.m. Coffee shop on Peachtree Street, across from the courthouse. Shanice sits at the corner table, the one with the outlet and the wall behind her. Black coffee, untouched, cooling in front of her. The notebook is open, but she is not writing. She is thinking. A woman slides into the seat across from her without invitation. Short hair, round glasses, a crossbody bag stuffed with reporters' notebooks and loose pens. She sets her coffee down and leans forward with the particular intensity of someone who has been waiting for this conversation. I've been covering the Fulton County family courts for 6 years. I've seen Judge Whitmore's hearings. I know what happens in 3B. Shanice looks at her, does not speak. Jolene Rask, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Courts Beat. She sets a business card on the table between them. I'm not asking for an interview. Good, I don't do interviews. I'm telling you, you're not the first. The Thompson case, February. The Warren case, April. Same courtroom, same pattern, same outcome. Mothers lose custody. Fathers get temporary orders that become permanent because no one has the resources to appeal. Shanice picks up her coffee, drinks, sets it down, says nothing. I can't publish without corroboration. Off the record, do you have documentation? I have a custody hearing next Thursday. That's all I'm focused on right now. Rask nods. She does not press. She slides the business card an inch closer to Shanice and stands. If Thursday goes the way I think it's going to go, I'll be in the gallery. I didn't invite you. Public courtroom. I don't need an invitation. Rask slings her bag over her shoulder. For what it's worth, I've watched 6 mothers go through Whitmore's courtroom this year. 5 lost custody. The 6th settled before hearing because she couldn't afford the fight. You're the first one I've seen quote statute numbers back at him. That either makes you the bravest person in this building or the most prepared. She leaves before Shanice can respond. The bell above the coffee shop door jingles behind her, a small, ridiculous sound in the middle of something that is neither small nor ridiculous. Shanice does not pick up the card, but she reads the name and number before Rask is out the door, and both are entered into the notebook in the same shorthand she uses for everything. Entry number 31. The next day, Wednesday, Shanice returns to the courthouse for a final pre-hearing filing. In the restroom on the 3rd floor, she washes her hands. The door opens behind her and a woman enters, courthouse staff, administrative badge visible, someone Shanice has seen at the front desk but never spoken to. The woman checks the stalls. Empty. She turns to Shanice. You're the Delacroix woman. Shanice dries her hands. I'm Shanice Delacroix, yes. My cousin filed a complaint about Whitmore last spring. Nothing happened. She lost her kids. The woman's voice is flat, factual, emptied of everything except the residue of a grief that belongs to someone else. She told me to tell anyone who fights him, be careful. He keeps records, too. Before Shanice can respond, the woman turns and exits. The door swings shut. The fluorescent light buzzes overhead. The restroom smells like industrial soap and recycled air. Shanice stands there for 10 seconds. Then she opens the notebook. Entry number 31A. Unsolicited contact from courthouse staff member. Name unknown, administrative badge. Stated family member filed complaint against Whitmore. Outcome, adverse. Warning issued. He keeps records, too. Assessed as credible. Will not identify source. She caps the pen. Looks at herself in the mirror. The face looking back is composed. The face she brings to courtrooms, to elevators, to lobbies, to every space in this building that has tried to make her smaller. But behind the composure, something is tightening, not breaking. Tightening, like a wire drawn taut between 2 fixed points, vibrating at a frequency only she can hear. That evening, 7:48 p.m. The apartment. The phone rings. Not the number Shanice called before. A different number, one she has not seen in months. She answers. Ms. Delacroix. The voice is female, older, unhurried. The kind of voice that has spent decades in rooms where words carry legal weight. I received your documentation package, 31 entries in 12 days. That's thorough. Ms. Delacroix. But the way the name is spoken carries something heavier than formality. It carries the tone of professional recognition. Not a clerk addressing a litigant, not a judge addressing a defendant, a colleague acknowledging a colleague. Thank you. Malcolm will be there Thursday, so will I. Bring everything, and I mean everything. The call lasts 41 seconds. Shanice hangs up, sets the phone on the table, and stares at it for a long time. 3 days. The hearing is in 3 days, and Garland Whitmore still has no idea that the woman he's been silencing, the woman he dismissed as just another single mother without a lawyer, has been building a case. Not about custody, about him. This story is just getting started. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because what happens next Thursday in Courtroom 3B will make Judge Whitmore wish he had never picked up that gavel. Wednesday, October 23rd, the day before the hearing. Shanice picks Amara up from school at 3:15. They drive home in comfortable silence. Amara chattering about a science project involving bean plants, Shanice listening with the part of her mind that is always available for her daughter, even when the rest of it is running calculations she cannot share. At home, she makes dinner. Baked chicken, green beans, rice. They eat at the kitchen table, and Amara tells her about a boy named Miles who put a crayon in his ear during art class and had to go to the nurse. Shanice laughs, a real laugh, unguarded, the kind that lives in the space between who she is at the courthouse and who she is here. After dinner, Amara takes a bath. Shanice sits on the closed toilet lid and reads aloud from a chapter book about a girl who discovers she can talk to animals. When Amara is dried, pajamaed, and tucked in with Mr. Stomps wedged into his assigned position between pillow and wall, Shanice stands in the doorway and watches her daughters breathing slow. Then she goes to the kitchen table and opens the notebook. 31 entries. 14 months of background work before the first entry. 3 FOIA requests. 4 court appearances. 2 direct confrontations. 1 with Price, 1 with Tremaine. 1 email that says, fit the profile, and 1 complaint log that shows a pattern no one has been willing to name. She organizes the folder one final time. Every document in order. Every timestamp verified. Every cross-reference checked against the original source. The doorbell camera log is printed and tabbed. The elevator footage is on USB and cloud. The FOIA packets are flagged with color-coded tabs, red for violations, blue for evidence, green for witnesses. At 9:22 p.m., a knock at the door. Not loud. 2 knocks, evenly spaced. The knock of someone who knows which apartment is hers and does not need to announce themselves. She checks the peephole, opens the door. Malcolm Bridger stands in the hallway. Tall, dark-skinned, silver at the temples, wearing a charcoal overcoat despite the mild October air. He carries a leather briefcase with brass hardware and initials stamped into the flap. M.A.B. Ms. Delacroix. Mr. Bridger, come in. He enters, removes his coat, sits at the kitchen table and opens his briefcase. Inside, not a single file. A system, tabbed, indexed, organized with the architectural precision of a man who has built cases before grand juries, appellate courts, and congressional committees. Show me everything. She slides the notebook across the table. He opens it to the first page and begins reading. He does not skim. He reads every entry, every timestamp, every note. Occasionally he stops, flips back, cross-references an entry with something in his own files. His expression does not change, but his reading speed slows at certain entries, which tells Shanice everything she needs to know about which pieces he considers strongest. 40 minutes pass. He closes the notebook. The email, the one from Fisk. Both fit the profile. Who was the recipient? Redacted. The ISP records could identify the account, but that would require a subpoena. I'll have one filed by morning. Georgia Code Section 24-12-1, Production of Documentary Evidence. We'll route it through the JQC complaint as an investigative subpoena rather than a civil discovery request. Faster, less likely to be quashed. Shanice nods. She has thought about this approach but lacked the standing to pursue it. A pro se litigant in a family court case cannot subpoena ISP records from a third party. An attorney filing on behalf of a formal complaint to the Judicial Qualifications Commission can. The lobby footage, Bridger says, flipping to entry 25. Price grabbed your wrist. 3 seconds, no mark, but the camera recorded it. Battery under 16-5-23. That alone is enough for DFCS disciplinary referral, separate from the fraudulent home visit report. He makes a note. We include both, the fabricated assessment and the physical contact. Pattern of intimidation layered on top of falsified documentation. The JQC panel will see the system, not just the judge. Shanice watches him work. Bridger's pen moves across the page in short, decisive strokes, each note a brick in a structure he is building from the foundation up. He is not dramatic. He is not angry. He is methodical, the way demolition experts are methodical, measuring the load-bearing walls, calculating the sequence, ensuring that when the structure comes down, it comes down where it's supposed to. The CPS report, Bridger continues. Price, you challenged him directly. In the hallway, he declined to respond. Did anyone witness the exchange? 2 clerks were passing. A woman with a stroller. Security guard near the metal detector, approximately 20 feet away. Names? I didn't get names, but the courthouse has hallway cameras in that corridor. Timestamp 12:41 p.m., October 10th. Bridger writes something in his own notebook. Smaller than hers, brown leather, filled with a handwriting so precise it looks typeset. Thursday. What time is the hearing? 9 a.m. courtroom 3B. I'll file the notice of appearance at 8:30. I'll also file a motion to vacate all prior orders issued in this matter, based on procedural irregularities, including the in-chambers subpoena ruling without a court reporter. He looks at her. And I'll file the complaint with the Judicial Qualifications Commission. 64 pages. Every entry, every exhibit, every timestamp you've given me, plus the 3 cases we've been tracking independently. Thompson, Warren, and a third one you may not know about. Henderson, June. Same courtroom, same judge, same outcome. Henderson. Shanice repeats the name. That's not in the JQC complaint log. Because she didn't file a complaint. She gave up, moved to Cobb County, lost custody permanently 3 months later when she missed a filing deadline she was never properly notified about. The apartment is very quiet. The refrigerator hums. The neighbor's television murmurs through the wall. Amara's breathing is soft and even behind her bedroom door. Garland Whitmore has been doing this for at least 18 months, Bridger says. Possibly longer. He selects cases. Fisk routes them to his docket. Price provides the evidentiary cover. Shelby represents the petitioning parent. And Tremaine ensures that anyone who pushes back feels physically unsafe doing so. He closes his briefcase. Tomorrow, we dismantle it. Shanice looks at the notebook. The folder. The USB drive. 14 months. 31 entries. 1 daughter sleeping behind a closed door. Not dismantle, she says. Document. Dismantle takes longer. Bridger allows himself the smallest nod, the kind of acknowledgement that passes between people who have worked inside systems long enough to know that breaking them is never as clean as it sounds. I'll see you at 8:30. He stands, puts on his coat, picks up his briefcase. At the door, he stops. The complaint identifies you by your full title, Senior Field Analyst, National Judicial Accountability Project. 14-month embedded investigation into judicial bias patterns in Fulton County family courts. He pauses. Once that complaint is filed, your cover as a pro se litigant ends. Whitmore will know, Shelby will know, Fisk, Price, Tremaine, They'll all know, and they will not react well. I know. Your daughter's custody case is real, your evidence is real, but they will try to reframe it. Entrapment, fabrication, activist targeting a respected judge. You need to be ready for that. I've been ready for 14 months. He leaves. The door closes. The lock turns. Twice. Shanice checks it with her hand, feeling the bolt seated in the frame. She goes to the kitchen table, gathers the papers, places them in the folder, places the folder in her bag. Then she opens the notebook to entry number 31 and draws a double line beneath it. Below the line she writes, October 23, 2024, briefing with M. Bridger, complaint prepared, 64 pages, 5 exhibits, 8 supporting documents. Hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m. Cover ends upon filing. She closes the notebook. In 8 hours, she will walk into courtroom 3B for the last time as a woman Garland Whitmore thinks he can silence. In 8 hours, the man who told her she didn't deserve to be in his room will learn who she actually is and what she has been building while he wasn't paying attention. But right now, she walks to Amara's door and stands there, watching her daughter sleep, one hand on the doorframe, the other pressed against her own chest, feeling her heartbeat. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever the system does to protect itself, whatever names they call her, whatever machinery grinds into motion against her, Amara is safe tonight. Amara is breathing. Amara does not know about notebooks or courtrooms or men who use gavels like weapons. And Shanice will keep it that way, no matter what it costs. She goes to the kitchen table one last time, opens the notebook, not to write, to read. She turns the pages from the beginning, slowly, reading each entry the way an architect reviews blueprints before the foundation is poured. Entry 1. The first anomaly she noticed in the Fulton County Family Court data, a statistical cluster of custody modifications in Division 3B that deviated 3 standard deviations from the county average. A number on a spreadsheet. That was 14 months ago. Entry 2. The intake meeting with the National Judicial Accountability Project, where her supervisor had looked at the data and said 2 words: go deeper. Entry 3. The day she filed for a Fulton County address, enrolled Amara in Burkhart Elementary, and began building a life that was real and a cover that was necessary. A life that became harder to separate from the cover with every school pickup, every bedtime story, every morning she made oatmeal with cinnamon. She has been Shanice Delacroix, single mother, for 14 months. She has also been Shanice Delacroix, senior field analyst, for 8 years. The 2 identities have never shared the same room. Tomorrow, they will. She closes the notebook. Outside, the city hums. Somewhere, a siren rises and fades. A neighbor's door opens and closes. A car alarm chirps once, then silences. And in the kitchen of a 1-bedroom apartment on Langford Avenue, the black notebook sits on the table, closed, heavy with 31 entries, waiting for morning. Waiting for courtroom 3B, waiting for Garland Whitmore to sit down behind his bench, pick up his gavel, and call a case number that will end his career. Waiting for what comes next. End of Part 1. In Part 2, Malcolm Bridger walks into courtroom 3B, and the air changes. Darlene Fisk recognizes his name, and her face goes white. Shanice Delacroix is introduced to the court not as a single mother fighting for custody, but by her full title. And Judge Garland Whitmore, for the first time in 22 years, discovers what it feels like to sit on the wrong side of an investigation. The reveal is coming, and it will reshape everything. Part 2. Thursday, October 24th, 7:41 a.m. Shanice braids Amara's hair in the bathroom mirror. 2 French braids, tight and even, the way Amara likes them for school pictures, even though school pictures were last month. The child holds still, 6 years old and already fluent in the language of her mother's hands, knowing when to tilt, when to turn, when to be patient. "Mama, are you going to work today?" The question is innocent. Amara does not know what her mother's work is, has never asked beyond the word meetings, which covers everything from grocery runs to what happens inside courtroom 3B. But the question lands differently today. Today, both definitions of work converge in the same building, at the same time, for the same reason. Yes, baby, Mrs. Okafor is picking you up after school. I might be late. How late? I don't know yet. Amara considers this with the gravity of a child who has learned that "I don't know yet" means something is happening that she is too young to be told about. She nods. Shanice ties off the second braid, kisses the top of her head, and holds her for 3 seconds longer than usual. At the kitchen table, the folder sits beside the black notebook. Both are inside a leather bag Shanice has not used before. A professional bag, structured, with a brass clasp. Not the plastic folder carrier she has been bringing to court. This bag says something different. This bag says the performance is over. She dresses. Not the simple dark blouse and slacks she has worn to every prior hearing. Today, a black blazer, tailored, with a single button. Dark trousers with a pressed crease. Low heels that make no sound on tile. Small gold earrings. The only jewelry she owns that is not functional. She looks at herself in the bathroom mirror and sees, for the first time in 14 months, the woman she has been pretending not to be. At 7:55, she drops Amara at school. Watches the door close. Photographs the entrance, the parking lot, the timestamp, routine, muscle memory, the last entry in a daily log that began when the cover began and will end when the cover ends. She drives to the courthouse, parks in the public lot, not the visitor spaces closer to the entrance. Walks through the main doors, through the metal detector, up to the 3rd floor. Her heels are quiet on the tile. Her bag hangs from her left shoulder. Her right hand is free. At 8:28 a.m., she sees him. Malcolm Bridger stands near the water fountain outside courtroom 3B. Charcoal suit, silver at the temples, the leather briefcase with the brass initials. He is reading something on his phone, or pretending to, with the relaxed posture of a man who has walked into buildings like this 1,000 times and walked out having changed what happened inside them. He looks up, sees her, nods once. "Good morning, Ms. Delacroix." "Good morning, Mr. Bridger." They do not shake hands. They do not need to. Whatever agreement exists between them was sealed long before this hallway, in conference rooms and encrypted emails and a 64-page document that is about to enter the public record. Bridger walks to the clerk's window. The plexiglass panel is open. Darlene Fisk sits behind it, coffee in hand, glasses low on her nose. The morning routine, another day, another docket, another set of litigants she can manage, redirect, and slow down. Malcolm Bridger, Caswell, and Fontaine. I'm entering a notice of appearance as counsel for the respondent in case 2024-FC-3187. Fisk sets her coffee down. She types the name into the system, the same deliberate keystrokes she uses for everyone, the same pace, the same rhythm. And then the results populate on her screen. Her fingers stop. Her eyes move across the text, left to right, slowly, the way a person reads something they need to verify is real. Georgia Bar Registry. Malcolm A. Bridger. Admitted 1989. Current status: active. Firm: Bridger, Caswell and Fontaine, Atlanta. Notable positions: former Deputy Attorney General, State of Georgia, 2008 through 2014. Former Chair, Governor's Commission on Judicial Reform, 2015 through 2018. Current Board Member, National Center for State Courts. Fisk's hand reaches for the phone. The internal line, the one that connects directly to courtroom 3B, to the bailiff's station, to the judge's chambers. She dials 3 digits and speaks in a voice that has dropped half an octave. "You need to come out here." She hangs up. She does not look at Bridger. She does not look at Shanice. She stares at her screen with the fixed expression of someone who has just realized that the building she has been standing in is not as solid as she thought. 30 seconds later, the courtroom doors open from inside. Tremaine steps into the hallway. He sees Bridger, does not recognize him, sees Shanice, does recognize her. His gaze shifts between them, the woman he cornered in an elevator and the man standing beside her who carries a briefcase worth more than Tremaine's monthly salary. Court is ready. All parties enter. They enter. If you've been waiting for the moment, everything changes. This is it. Subscribe now, because Judge Whitmore is about to learn a lesson that 22 years on the bench never taught him. The courtroom is the same room Shanice has stood in 4 times before. Same wood paneling, same fluorescent hum, same elevated bench with the worn gavel. But the air is different today. The gallery is fuller. Jolene Rask sits in the 3rd row, a reporter's notebook open on her lap, pen already moving. 2 other observers are seated behind her, people Shanice does not recognize, but Bridger apparently does, because he nods to one of them as he passes. Shelby is already at the petitioner's table. His papers are arranged, his pen is uncapped. He looks up when the respondent's table receives not 1 person but 2, and the look on his face travels through 3 stages in under a second: confusion, recognition, alarm. He knows Bridger. Not personally, but professionally. The way any family law attorney in Fulton County knows the name of a former deputy attorney general who specialized in civil rights enforcement and judicial ethics. Shelby has read Bridger's published articles, has heard him quoted in appellate decisions, has, on at least one occasion, used a case Bridger argued as precedent in his own brief. And now Malcolm Bridger is sitting at the respondent's table in a custody modification case that Shelby expected to win before lunch. Shelby reaches for his phone beneath the table. His thumb moves across the screen. A text, fast, to someone whose name Shanice cannot see. The reply comes in under 10 seconds. Shelby reads it, and the color in his face adjusts by 1 shade toward gray. The back door opens. Garland Whitmore enters. Robe, glasses, gavel. The routine is the same. Sit, adjust glasses, open the file. But today, when he looks up from the file and scans the courtroom, his scan stops at the respondent's table. He sees Shanice. He has seen her before, 4 times, sitting in that same chair, in that same blazer or something like it, with that same folder. She is not new. The man beside her is. Whitmore's gaze rests on Bridger for 2 seconds. 3. His expression does not change. 22 years of bench time have given him the ability to receive information without displaying a reaction. But the pen in his right hand, the pen he always holds during opening remarks, rotates between his fingers. A small, involuntary movement. A tell. The gavel falls. Case 2024-FC-3187. Delacroix versus Delacroix. I see the respondent has obtained counsel. Bridger stands. His voice fills the courtroom without effort. Not loud, but textured. The kind of voice that has been shaped by decades of rooms like this. Rooms where volume matters less than clarity and timing, matters more than both. Good morning, Your Honor. Malcolm Bridger, Caswell, and Fontaine. I've filed a notice of appearance as counsel for Ms. Delacroix, along with 2 motions I'd like to address before we proceed. Whitmore looks at the file in front of him. The notice of appearance is on top. Fisk filed it before the hearing began, per procedure. Beneath it, 2 motions he has not yet read. What motions, Counselor? First, a motion to vacate all prior orders issued in this matter, on the grounds that multiple proceedings were conducted without a court reporter present, in violation of Georgia Uniform Superior Court Rule 21.1. Specifically, the October 14th in-chambers conference, in which this court issued a subpoena compelling production of the respondent's medical records, a substantive order issued without transcription. Whitmore's jaw tightens. The pen rotation stops. Second. Bridger pauses. Not for dramatic effect. For precision. The next sentence will change the geometry of this courtroom, and he wants every word to land exactly where it needs to. Yeah, I am filing, simultaneously with this court and with the Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission, a formal complaint under Georgia Code Section 15-1-21, alleging a pattern of judicial misconduct, procedural abuse, and systematic deprivation of due process rights, targeting pro se litigants in this division. The courtroom does not gasp. It is worse than that. It holds its breath, a collective, involuntary suspension of air, as though the room itself has been struck and is waiting to feel the pain. Shelby is on his feet before the last word fades. Your Honor, this is completely outside the scope of— I'm not finished, Mr. Shelby. Bridger's voice does not rise. It does not need to. The interruption is not aggressive. It is jurisdictional. He is telling Shelby that the ground beneath this case has shifted, that the rules of engagement have changed, and that speaking out of turn in the middle of a formal filing will not serve him well. Shelby sits. Bridger opens his briefcase. Inside, not a folder, not a stack of loose papers. A bound document, 64 pages, tabbed with colored dividers, indexed with a table of contents visible through the clear plastic cover. Beside it, a USB drive in a labeled sleeve. Beside that, 3 separate evidence packets, each sealed in a manila envelope stamped with a date and a case number. Accompanying the complaint is a 64-page evidentiary dossier compiled by Ms. Delacroix. He pauses again. In her capacity as senior field analyst for the National Judicial Accountability Project. The courtroom breaks, not loudly, not with screams or shouts. It breaks the way a window breaks in slow motion, the crack forming first, thin and precise, then branching outward in every direction until the entire surface is fractured and the only thing holding it together is the frame. Fisk's typing stops. Tremaine's arms drop to his sides. Shelby's pen falls from his fingers and rolls to the edge of the table. The court reporter looks up from her machine, an unprecedented breach of professional focus, and stares at the respondent's table. And Whitmore, Judge Garland R. Whitmore, 22 years on the bench, unchallenged, unquestioned, undisturbed, goes still. Not the stillness of composure. The stillness of a man who has just heard the first crack in the ice beneath his feet and is calculating how far he is from solid ground. The National Judicial. He stops. Starts again. Ms. Delacroix has been embedded in the Fulton County family court system for 14 months, Bridger says. During that period, she has documented 31 separate instances of procedural irregularity, judicial misconduct, and due process violations in this courtroom alone. The dossier includes evidence of— I don't need you to read it to me, counselor. Whitmore's voice cracks on the word read. Not much. A fracture in the vocal register that anyone not listening for it would miss. But Shanice is listening for it. She has been listening for 14 months. Your Honor, with respect, the record requires that the scope of the complaint be stated in open court, for the transcript. Bridger gestures, almost imperceptibly, toward the court reporter, whose fingers have resumed their movement on the keys with the feverish pace of someone who understands that every word spoken in this room is now evidence. Bridger continues, and the courtroom listens. Exhibit A, 31 documented instances of procedural violations in Case 2024-FC-3187. Each entry is time-stamped, cross-referenced with Georgia Uniform Superior Court rules and the Code of Judicial Conduct. Violations include denial of respondent's right to be heard under Rule 24. 7. Issuance of substantive orders without transcription, hostile and demeaning language directed at a pro se litigant, and destruction of filed documents. Specifically, the court's act of dropping respondents' submitted evidence from the bench onto the courtroom floor during the October 10th hearing. The woman in the gallery, the one who watched Shanice kneel on this same floor 2 weeks ago, picking up papers while a judge watched from above, inhales sharply. She recognizes the moment being described. She was there. Exhibit B, FOI, a obtained email correspondence between Court Clerk Darlene Fisk and a redacted recipient dated August 14, 2024. Subject line, R.E. Whitmore Calendar, Priority Cases. The email discusses the selective assignment of cases to this court's docket based on, and I quote the email directly, cases that, quote, fit the profile, end quote. Fisk's chair scrapes backward, a small, involuntary retreat. Her face has lost the composure that has protected her through 6 years behind that plexiglass window. She looks at Whitmore. Whitmore does not look at her. Exhibit C, security footage from Fulton County Courthouse elevator camera number 3 East, dated October 18, 2024. Timestamp 11:47 to 11:49. The footage shows Bailiff Knox Tremaine activating the emergency stop mechanism while alone in the elevator with Ms. Delacroix. The incident lasted approximately 75 seconds. No incident report was filed by court staff. Tremaine's back straightens against the wall. His hand moves toward his belt. Reflex, not intention, then drops. He stares straight ahead with the rigid focus of a man who is trying very hard not to look at the person describing what he did. Exhibit D, CPS report, authored by Investigator Warren Price, LCSW, Fulton County Division of Family and Children Services, dated October 2, 2024. The report describes a home visit allegedly conducted on September 28, 2024, at 9:30 a.m. Doorbell camera footage from the respondent's residence shows that no CPS visit occurred on that date. Additionally, Bridger opens the second evidence packet. Lobby security footage from the respondent's apartment building, dated October 19, 2024, shows Investigator Price conducting an unannounced visit without the required 48-hour written notice, making verbal threats of child removal in the presence of the minor child, and initiating unwanted physical contact with the respondent. This footage has been preserved with chain of custody documentation from the building's property management. Somewhere in the gallery, Jolene Rask is writing so fast her pen skips across the page. She will later describe this moment in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as the longest 3 minutes in the history of Fulton County Family Court, Exhibit E. Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission. Public records showing 7 complaints filed against this court in the preceding 18 months. 6 of 7 complainants identified as African American women. 5 complaints were dismissed without investigation. The remaining 2 are listed as pending review with no documented follow-up. Bridger closes his briefcase. He does not sit. He remains standing because what comes next requires the full weight of a man who once served as Deputy Attorney General of the state of Georgia. Your Honor, under Georgia Code Section 15-1-8 and 28 U.S.C. Section 455, a judge must recuse when their impartiality might reasonably be questioned. You are now the subject of a formal judicial misconduct complaint filed by a party before you. Continued precedence over this case would constitute grounds for automatic reversal on appeal and would subject this court to additional misconduct charges. Whitmore does not speak for 7 seconds. In courtroom time, 7 seconds is an age, long enough for every person in the room to count, long enough for the silence to develop its own texture, its own gravity. When he speaks, his voice is lower than it has been all morning. Lower than it has been in any of the 4 hearings Shanice has attended. Lower than the voice that told her she didn't deserve to be in this room. This court is in recess. Indefinitely. The gavel falls. Not with authority this time. With finality. The kind that sounds like a door closing from the wrong side. Whitmore stands. He does not look at the gallery, the court reporter, the clerk, or the bailiff. He does not look at Shelby, whose face has gone the color of old paper. He walks to the back door and opens it. Then he stops, turns halfway, looks at Shanice. For 3 seconds, they share the room, the judge, and the woman he underestimated. His eyes carry something that is not anger and not fear. It is recognition. The belated, devastating recognition that he has been performing for an audience he did not know was watching, on a stage he thought he controlled, in a play that was never going the way he believed. He exits. The door closes behind him with a soft click that echoes longer than any gavel strike. Shanice sits at the respondent's table. The courtroom is emptying. The gallery observers shuffling toward the exits, the court reporter saving her file, The woman with the toddler pausing at the door to look back once, as though memorizing the room where something she did not fully understand just happened. Shelby remains at the petitioner's table. He has not moved. His papers are still arranged, his pen still uncapped, his briefcase still open. But his hands are flat on the table, the same posture Shanice used on her first day in this courtroom. The posture of someone measuring the distance between where they are and where they need to be. "Mr. Shelby." Bridger's voice is not hostile. It is professional. The tone of one attorney addressing another in a matter that has just become significantly more complicated. "I'd recommend your client consider voluntary dismissal of the custody petition. The CPS report underpinning the petition is now the subject of an OIG investigation. Continuing to rely on it would expose your client, and potentially your firm, to sanctions under Georgia Code Section 9-15-14 for maintaining a frivolous proceeding." Shelby looks at Bridger, then at Shanice, then at his own hands. "This was a legitimate custody modification. My client had genuine concerns about—" "Your client's concerns were supported by a fabricated home assessment and enabled by a judge who denied the respondent basic procedural rights. I'm not accusing you of participating in that, Mr. Shelby. I'm giving you the opportunity to distance yourself from it before the record becomes permanent." Shelby gathers his papers. The sound of shuffling documents fills the empty courtroom. A small, defeated sound, the rustle of a case collapsing in on itself. "I'll discuss it with my client." He leaves without looking back. His footsteps in the hallway are not confident. They are fast, the rhythm of a man who wants to be somewhere else, anywhere else, before the next conversation catches up with him. Shanice remains seated. She opens the notebook, writes the time, 9:47 a.m., and a single sentence. "Complaint filed. Cover terminated. Custody case expected to dismiss. Exhibits entered into JQC record." She closes the notebook, sets it on the table, looks at it. 14 months, 31 entries, 6 women who filed complaints that went nowhere. A 7th, Henderson, the name Bridger mentioned, who didn't even file, who just gave up and moved away and lost her children to a system that mistook her silence for consent. Shanice picks up the notebook and puts it in her bag. Whatever comes next, this part is done. The evidence is filed. The record exists. It cannot be unfiled, unrecorded, unsaid. She stands and walks to the door. Tremaine is not there to block it. The hallway is empty. The fluorescent light still flickers. The same one, the same flicker, unchanged by anything that happened in the room behind her. At the elevator, she presses the button and waits. The car arrives. She steps in, alone. The black dome of the security camera blinks its red light in the upper corner. She rides to the first floor without incident. No one stops the elevator. No one presses the emergency button. No one tells her which exit to use. Small things. But she notices them. That afternoon, 3:27 p.m. Fulton County Courthouse parking lot. Shanice is walking to her car when a voice stops her. "You think this is over?" She turns. Tremaine stands 30 feet away, near the stairwell exit that leads from the 3rd floor directly to the parking structure. He is in uniform. Badge, belt, the full apparatus of courthouse authority. But he is off post. The 3rd floor is empty. There is no judge to escort, no courtroom to guard, no litigant to direct toward the south exit. "I have nothing to say to you, Mr. Tremaine." He walks toward her. Not fast, deliberate. The same pace he used in the hallway, the same occupation of space. But the parking lot is not a hallway. It is open, exposed, and the nearest camera is 40 feet to the left, angled toward the payment kiosk, not the stairwell exit. 14 months. He shakes his head. 14 months you sat in that courtroom, playing helpless, writing in your little notebook. And the whole time you were, what? Spying? Recording? Setting us up? "I was documenting procedural violations. The procedures exist to protect litigants. The violations existed before I arrived. You used your own kid. His voice drops. Not threatening. Worse. Disgusted. You put your own daughter in the middle of a custody case so you could... My ex-husband filed the custody petition. I responded. Every document in the court record confirms that. You can verify it yourself. Don't tell me what I can verify. He is 10 feet away now. Shanice's car is behind her. 7 steps, maybe 8. Her keys are in her right hand. The parking lot holds 3 other vehicles, all empty. A security booth is visible at the far end, near the street entrance, but the guard inside is reading something and not looking in their direction. This conversation is being recorded. Shanice holds up her phone. The screen shows a voice memo app, the timer running, the red dot pulsing. Date, October 24, 2024. Time, 3:28 p.m. Location, Fulton County Courthouse Parking Structure, Level 1. Bailiff Knox Tremaine has approached me following today's hearing. Tremaine stares at the phone. His jaw works. The same grinding motion from the elevator, molars against molars, the physical manifestation of words being held behind teeth. You people always have a camera, always recording, always trying to catch somebody doing something. You people. Shanice repeats it without inflection. That will be on the recording too, Mr. Tremaine. He turns, walks back to the stairwell door, pulls it open, pauses. Whitmore gave 22 years to this courthouse. 22 years, and you come in here for 14 months and think you have the right to... The door closes on his last word. The stairwell swallows the sound, and the parking lot returns to its ambient silence. The hum of a ventilation fan, the distant sound of traffic, a car horn somewhere on the street above. Shanice lowers the phone, stops the recording, saves it, transfers it to the cloud server with the elevator footage and the lobby footage, and every other piece of evidence she has collected in a year and 2 months of being someone that powerful people underestimated. She gets in her car, locks the doors, sits for 30 seconds with her hands on the steering wheel, feeling the steering wheel, feeling something solid and real, and hers. Then she drives to Burkhart Elementary. The hallway empties slowly after the recess is called. Shelby packs his briefcase with the mechanical urgency of a man evacuating a building. He does not speak to Shanice, does not speak to Bridger, does not make eye contact with Fisk as he passes the clerk's window. His footsteps are faster than they were this morning, the confident rhythm replaced by something closer to retreat. Tremaine disappears through a side corridor. His badge catches the fluorescent light once, then he is gone, into the warren of administrative hallways that courthouse staff use to avoid the public areas, the paths that connect break rooms to parking garages without passing through any space where cameras might record their faces. Fisk remains behind the plexiglass. She has not moved from her chair. Her screen still displays Bridger's bar registry page, and she stares at it with the unfocused gaze of someone who is mentally rewriting the past 6 years of her career, searching for the moment she should have done something different. Jolene Rask intercepts Bridger outside the courtroom doors. Her notebook is open, pen poised. Mr. Bridger, can you confirm that your client has been conducting an investigation into Judge Whitmore for 14 months? The formal complaint speaks for itself, Ms. Rask. It's a public filing. You're welcome to review it at the JQC office. Can Ms. Delacroix comment? Bridger looks at Shanice. Shanice shakes her head. One small motion, precise. Not at this time. Rask nods. She knows how this works. The story writes itself. She does not need quotes when she has a 64-page dossier and 5 exhibits waiting for her at the JQC Public Records desk. Bridger and Shanice walk toward the elevator in silence. When the doors close and they are alone, Bridger exhales. A long, controlled release of air, the first visible sign that the morning has cost him something too. Shelby will file a motion to dismiss the custody petition by end of day. His client's case depended on Whitmore's cooperation. Without Whitmore, the petition collapses. And if he doesn't dismiss? Then the new judge assigned to the case will review the CPS report, find the doorbell camera evidence, and throw it out. Price's testimony is worthless now. He's going to be defending himself before the OIG long before anyone calls him as a witness in a custody hearing. The elevator opens on the first floor. They step out into the main lobby. Marble floors, high ceilings, the bustle of a working courthouse at mid-morning. Lawyers cross paths with bailiffs. Families cluster near the information desk. Everything looks normal. Everything is normal for everyone except the people who just left the third floor. "What happens now?" Shanice asks. Not the question of someone who doesn't know, the question of someone who wants to hear someone else say it. "Now, we wait. The JQC has 30 days to issue a preliminary response. They'll assign an investigative panel. Whitmore's attorney will file motions to dismiss, to seal, to delay, everything the system has in its toolbox. The process takes months, not days." "I know. I know you know." Bridger stops near the courthouse exit. The glass doors frame the October sunlight, sharp and clean. But there's a difference between knowing it as an analyst and knowing it as the person whose name is on the complaint. They will come after you, Shanice. Not Whitmore's attorneys. Those will be professional, procedural, predictable. The others. The ones who call you a plant, an operative, an outsider who fabricated a custody case to entrap a respected judge. "I didn't fabricate anything. My daughter is real. The custody petition was filed by my ex-husband. I responded to a legal proceeding that was filed against me." "I know, and the record supports that, but narratives don't always follow records." He adjusts his briefcase. "Be careful, be precise, and call me if anyone from the courthouse contacts you directly." He leaves through the side exit. Shanice stands in the lobby for a moment, bag against her hip, the weight of the notebook and the dossier and 14 months of work pressing against her ribs. Then she walks outside, gets in her car, and drives to Burkhart Elementary. She arrives 20 minutes before pickup. She parks in the third row, facing the entrance. She does not take a photograph. For the first time in 14 months, she does not document the parking lot, the entrance, the timestamp. Because the cover is blown, and the routine that maintained it has ended, and she is not sure yet what replaces it. She sits in the car and waits for her daughter. The October light falls across the windshield. She closes her eyes. Chuck. If you've made it this far, you already know this story is far from over. Hit that like button and stay until the end, because the system is about to fight back. 6 weeks later. December 5th, 2024. The machinery of institutional self-preservation operates on its own timeline, and that timeline is calibrated for endurance, not speed. It took 41 days for the Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission to convene its investigative panel. It took an additional 7 days for Whitmore's attorney, a man named Carlton Seagrove, who specializes in defending judges and has a win rate that makes most defense attorneys look like amateurs, to file his first motion. Motion to dismiss on grounds of procedural irregularity. Denied. Motion to seal the complaint. Partially granted. The exhibits remain public, but the complainant's home address and personal contact information are redacted. During those 6 weeks, the following things happened. Cormac Shelby filed a voluntary dismissal of the custody modification petition on October 28th, 4 days after the courtroom hearing. The filing was 3 sentences long. No explanation, no apology, no mention of the CPS report, the doorbell camera footage, or the 64-page dossier that made his case untenable. Dominic Delacroix's name does not appear in the Fulton County Family Court system again, but Dominic himself appeared, once more, on October 30th. Shanice was loading Amara into the car after school when the blue pickup pulled into the parking lot. Dominic stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a work jacket and the expression of a man who has just discovered that the woman he divorced 2 years ago is not who he thought she was. He did not approach Amara. He stood by his truck, 30 feet away, and waited until Shanice closed the car door with Amara inside. "Were you ever going to tell me?" Shanice walked toward him. Not close. 10 feet of parking lot between them, the gap measured by instinct and history. Tell you what, that you're some kind of investigator, that you were using our daughter's custody case as part of some operation. I wasn't using Amara. You filed for custody modification. I responded. Shelby told me you were a plant, that the whole thing was... Shelby is protecting himself, Dominic. He tied his case to a judge who is now suspended for misconduct and a CPS report that was fabricated. He needs someone to blame, and he's chosen me. Dominic's hands balled into fists at his sides. Not a threat, a reflex. The physical expression of a man processing information that rearranges everything he thought he understood about the past 14 months. I wanted what was best for Amara. So did I. You could have told me. You could have... We were married, Shanice. I thought I knew you. You did know me. You know the mother I am. You know how I take care of her. Nothing about Amara's life was fabricated. Her school is real. Her home is real. Her oatmeal every morning is real. He looked at the car. Amara was visible through the window, watching them with the unblinking attention of a child who has learned to read adult body language the way other children read picture books. Does she know? She knows I go to meetings. That's all she needs to know right now. Dominic stood there for a long moment. Then he shook his head, not in anger, in something closer to exhaustion, and got back in his truck. I'm not going to fight you anymore. I know. He drove away. Shanice stood in the parking lot and watched the blue pickup merge into traffic and disappear. Then she opened the car door, buckled her seatbelt, and turned to Amara in the back seat. Can we get ice cream? Yes, baby, we can get ice cream. They went to the place on Moreland Avenue, the one with the flavor called Cosmic Brownie that turns Amara's tongue purple. They sat at the counter by the window and watched the traffic pass, and Shanice did not take out her notebook, did not photograph the storefront, did not log the time or the license plates or the pedestrians on the sidewalk. She just ate ice cream with her daughter. And for 20 minutes, that was enough. Shanice retained primary custody of Amara. No hearing, no ruling. The case simply ceased to exist, the way cases do when the machinery that sustained them is dismantled. 3 weeks after the dismissal, a new judge was assigned to handle any remaining administrative matters in the Delacroix file. Judge Anita Colburn, transferred from Civil Division, younger than Whitmore, less inclined to monologue. Colburn reviewed the file, noted the OIG referral against Price, struck the CPS report from the record, and issued a 2-paragraph order confirming the existing custody arrangement. Primary custody, Shanice Delacroix. Visitation, alternating weekends and Wednesday evenings for Dominic Delacroix. No modifications. The order was entered on November 15, 2024. Shanice received it by mail 3 days later. She read it at the kitchen table, folded it, and placed it in the fireproof box in her bedroom closet where she keeps Amara's birth certificate, their social security cards, and the deed to a future she is still building. She did not cry. She did not celebrate. She sat at the table and looked at the closed notebook, the one that had been open almost continuously for 14 months, and felt for the first time since this began the particular gravity of a mission that is complete. Not the elation of victory, the weight of knowing what was found, what was documented, and what the documentation cost the people it was meant to protect. Warren Price was placed on administrative leave by the Fulton County Division of Family and Children's Services on November 3rd, pending an investigation by the Office of Inspector General. His caseload, 47 active cases, was redistributed to 3 other investigators, each of whom was already carrying more than the recommended maximum. The DFCS issued a statement. The division takes all allegations of misconduct seriously and is cooperating fully with the investigative process. Knox Tremaine was referred to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office Internal Affairs Unit for review of the elevator incident. The referral was made on November 8th and acknowledged on November 12th. As of December 5th, no interview has been scheduled. Darlene Fisk was reassigned from the Family Division Clerk's Office to the Civil Division. Same floor, same hallway, different window. No disciplinary action, no formal investigation, just a lateral move, the bureaucratic equivalent of rearranging furniture in a burning building. And Garland Whitmore, Judge Garland R. Whitmore, 22 years on the bench, 7 complaints in 18 months, 5 dismissed without investigation, was suspended from judicial duties pending completion of a full JQC investigation, administrative leave, with pay. His cases, all of them, not just the Delacroix matter, were reassigned to 3 other judges in the Fulton County Superior Court Family Division. He retained his title. He retained his office. He retained his parking space in the judge's lot. He simply was not allowed to sit in his chair, wear his robe, or pick up his gavel. The system had moved. Not fast, not far, but it had moved. December 5th, 2024, 2:15 p.m., Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission, Hearing Room, 7th floor, State Office Building, Atlanta. The room is not a courtroom. It is a conference room. Long table, microphones, water carafes, 5 chairs on one side for the commissioners, 2 chairs on the other for the respondent and counsel. No gallery, but a row of chairs along the wall for observers. Jolene Rask occupies one. A representative from the Georgia chapter of the ACLU occupies another. A man Shanice does not recognize sits at the far end, taking notes in a leather-bound journal. Whitmore sits at the respondent's table in a navy suit, no robe. Without the robe, he looks smaller. Not physically. He is still tall, still silver-haired, still straight-backed. But the robe is an amplifier, and without it, his authority operates on battery power. Carlton Seagrove sits beside him. Early 60s, silver beard, the calm demeanor of a man who bills $800 an hour and has earned every penny of it. Bridger presents the complaint. 40 minutes. Exhibit by exhibit, entry by entry, timestamp by timestamp. He does not raise his voice. He does not editorialize. He reads the evidence the way an engineer reads structural reports. Factually, sequentially, with an emphasis on load-bearing failures that compromise the entire system. The 5 commissioners listen. One of them, Commissioner Helen Sow, a retired appellate judge, asks questions. Precise questions. The kind that suggest she has read the entire 64-page dossier before the hearing began. Mr. Bridger, Exhibit B references an email from Clerk Fisk to a redacted recipient regarding the selective assignment of cases. Has the identity of the recipient been established? Not yet, Commissioner. We've filed an investigative subpoena for the ISP records associated with the redacted email address. The service provider has indicated compliance within 30 days, pending a legal challenge from an unnamed party whose counsel filed a motion to quash last week. Unnamed party? Correct. The motion to quash was filed by outside counsel, not Mr. Seagrove, not anyone associated with Judge Whitmore's defense. A separate attorney, representing a person or entity whose identity is protected by the motion itself. Commissioner Sow writes something on her notepad. She does not share it. But her expression, the slight compression of her lips, the narrowing of her eyes, says that an unnamed party filing to quash a subpoena in a judicial misconduct investigation is exactly the kind of detail that turns a single-judge problem into a systemic one. Seagrove presents Whitmore's defense. 35 minutes. The language is polished, deliberate, and built on 3 pillars that every institutional defense relies on: isolation, discretion, and reframing. The incidents described in the complaint, to the extent they occurred as documented, represent isolated instances of judicial conduct that fall within the broad discretion afforded to trial court judges in managing their courtrooms. Judge Whitmore's 22-year record reflects a commitment to efficiency and order that has been consistently upheld on appellate review. Isolated instances. Bridger does not interrupt. He notes the phrase on his legal pad with the quiet satisfaction of a man who expected to hear exactly those words. Seagrove continues. The respondent acknowledges that certain interactions with Ms. Delacroix may have fallen below the aspirational standards of Canon 2, Rule 2.8. However, aspirational standards are not enforceable standards, and the gap between a judge who is occasionally brusque and a judge who engages in systematic misconduct is vast. Occasionally brusque. Commissioner Tsao repeats the phrase without inflection. Mr. Seagrove, your client told a pro se litigant, and I'm reading from the court transcript, page 14, that she didn't deserve to be in this room. He dropped her filed documents from the bench onto the courtroom floor. He conducted an in-chambers conference without a court reporter and issued a subpoena for medical records without the required evidentiary foundation. You characterize this as occasionally brusque? Seagrove does not flinch. He is paid not to flinch. Commissioner, courtroom management involves difficult decisions made under pressure. Judge Whitmore's language, while regrettable in hindsight, does not constitute a pattern of 7 complaints in 18 months, Commissioner Tsao says. 6 of 7 filed by African American women. 5 dismissed without investigation. Mr. Seagrove, at what point does a collection of isolated incidents become a pattern? The room holds its breath. Seagrove adjusts his cuff. The same gesture Shelby used in the hallway outside courtroom 3B weeks ago, the uniform movement of men who occupy spaces of power and adjust their armor when it is tested. The demographics of the complainants are coincidental. Fulton County's family court docket serves a diverse population, and we'll let the data speak to that, Commissioner Tsao says. Thank you, Mr. Seagrove. Whitmore leans toward Seagrove, whispers something. Seagrove shakes his head. A small, tight motion that means not now and not here, and let me handle this. But Whitmore is not a man who lets other people handle things. 22 years of gavels and silence and obedience have built a reflex that overrides legal counsel. May I address the commission directly? Seagrove's hand lands on Whitmore's forearm. Judge Whitmore, I strongly advise. May I address the commission? Commissioner Tsao looks at Seagrove. Seagrove's expression communicates, in a single compressed look, everything his billing rate cannot buy. Do not let my client speak. But the commission is not a courtroom. The respondent has a right to make a statement. You may, Judge Whitmore. Briefly. Whitmore stands. Without the robe, without the elevated bench, without the gavel in his hand, he is just a tall man in a navy suit, and the room is not configured to amplify him. The microphone is table level. The commissioners are at eye height. The geometry of power that he has occupied for 22 years is absent, and in its absence, he is exposed. I have served this county for 22 years. I have presided over more than 8,000 cases. I have mentored 11 junior judges. I have volunteered in the community, supported legal aid programs, and been recognized 3 times by the Georgia Bar Association for judicial excellence. He pauses. The pauses that used to control courtrooms do not work here. In this room, pauses are just silence. And now, I am being told that my career, my reputation, everything I have built, is being torn apart because some organization I have never heard of sent a woman into my courtroom to pretend to be a struggling mother, to manufacture a case, and to Judge Whitmore. Commissioner Tsao's voice is not loud. It is precise. The custody case was not manufactured. The petition was filed by the complainant's ex-husband through licensed Georgia counsel. The court record confirms this. If you are suggesting otherwise, you should be aware that doing so in this proceeding could constitute a materially false statement. Whitmore's face reddens. The color starts at his collar and rises. A physical manifestation of 22 years of unchallenged authority meeting, for the first time, an authority that outranks his own. She sat in my courtroom. She lied about who she was. She exercised her right to represent herself in a legal proceeding. She did not misrepresent her identity. She provided her legal name, which appears on her birth certificate, her driver's license, and the custody agreement in the court file. Her professional affiliation was not a matter before the court. This is entrapment. Seagrove stands. His hand is on Whitmore's arm again, firmer this time. Judge Whitmore, I need to confer with my client. Commissioner, may we have a 5-minute recess? Granted. Seagrove guides Whitmore to the hallway. The door closes. Through the thin walls of the state office building, the sound of raised voices is audible but not decipherable. A muffled argument between a man who has never been told to sit down and a lawyer who is being paid to tell him exactly that. Shanice sits in the observer's row. She has not spoken during the hearing. Bridger handles the presentation, the questions, the procedural exchanges. Her role today is what it has been for 14 months: to be present, to observe, and to document. In the notebook, she writes, 12:14 p.m. Respondent Whitmore addressed commission directly against counsel's advice. Used term entrapment. Commissioner Tsao corrected factual record. Respondent's emotional state: agitated, accusatory, escalating. Note: first time observing subject lose composure in a formal proceeding. 5 minutes pass. Seagrove and Whitmore return. Whitmore's tie is loosened, a detail so unusual that everyone in the room notices it. He sits. He does not speak again. The commission calls 2 witnesses. First, Darlene Fisk. Fisk enters the hearing room in a dark dress, hands clasped at her waist, eyes fixed on a point 3 feet in front of her feet. She takes the oath. She sits. She does not look at Whitmore. Ms. Fisk, you authored an email on August 14, 2024, to a recipient whose identity has been redacted, in which you discussed moving cases to Judge Whitmore's docket. Can you explain what you meant by fit the profile? Fisk's mouth opens, closes, opens again. I was told to prioritize certain cases for Judge Whitmore's docket, cases involving... She stops. Her attorney, a woman seated behind her, shifts in her chair. Cases involving custody modifications where one party was self-represented. Who told you? I received instructions via email, from an address I didn't recognize. I assumed it was administrative. You assumed? Did you verify? No. Do you still have the original email? I deleted it. She says this quickly, the way people say things they know sound bad and want to get past. My inbox was full. I delete correspondence regularly. But the email was recovered through FOIA. Yes. And the recipient address is redacted because I don't control redactions. That's the county records office. Commissioner Tsao makes another note. The pen moves slowly, deliberately, as though each word weighs something. Second witness, Warren Price. He enters the hearing room accompanied by his own attorney, a man in an ill-fitting gray suit who has clearly been retained on short notice and at a rate significantly below Seagrove's. Mr. Price, your report dated October 2nd, 2024, describes a home visit conducted on September 28th. The complainant's doorbell camera footage shows no visit occurred on that date. Can you explain this discrepancy? Price looks at his attorney. His attorney leans in, whispers. Price nods. On the advice of counsel, I respectfully invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment to decline to answer. The Fifth. In a disciplinary hearing. Price, the man who threatened to take Shanice's child, the man who grabbed her wrist in a lobby while her 6-year-old watched, is invoking his right not to incriminate himself, because answering the question would require him to admit, under oath, that he either fabricated a home visit or conducted one without proper documentation, and either answer opens a door he cannot close. Commissioner Tsao regards him for a long moment. The commission notes Mr. Price's invocation. Mr. Price, you are excused. Price stands. His attorney gathers papers. They exit through the side door without looking at anyone in the room. The door closes behind them, and the sound it makes is the sound of a career ending, not with a verdict, but with silence. The commission does not issue its final determination that day. This is expected. The JQC process is designed for thoroughness, not theater. Investigations run months, sometimes years. Reports are drafted, reviewed, amended, challenged, and finalized through a process that makes legislative gridlock look efficient. But they issue an interim order. Bridger reads it aloud in the hallway outside the hearing room, his voice low, the document angled toward the light. Interim order of the Georgia Judicial Qualifications Commission, dated December 5, 2024. Judge Garland R. Whitmore is hereby suspended from judicial duties pending completion of a full investigation. All active cases on Judge Whitmore's docket are to be reassigned effective immediately. Bailiff Knox Tremaine is referred to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office for internal review regarding the incident described in Exhibit C. CPS investigator Warren Price is referred to the Georgia Division of Family and Children Services, Office of Inspector General, for review of the assessment described in Exhibit D. Shanice listens. She does not celebrate. She does not exhale with relief. She stands in the hallway of the state office building and absorbs the words the way she has absorbed everything for 14 months, precisely, completely, and with the understanding that an interim order is not a conclusion. It is a comma in a sentence that may take years to finish. Suspended, she says, with pay. With pay, Bridger confirms. Administrative leave, standard procedure. Standard. The system protects itself first, always. You know that. I know that. They stand in the hallway. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. An administrative assistant walks past with a stack of files, oblivious to the two people who have just rearranged the third floor of the Fulton County Courthouse. What about the unnamed party? Shanice asks. The one who filed to quash the ISP subpoena. Still unnamed. The motion is sealed. We challenged the seal. The challenge is under review. Could take another 3 months. So we don't know who was receiving Fisk's emails. Not yet. The word yet hangs between them, a thread connecting this moment to a future that neither of them can see clearly. 3 weeks later. December 27th, 2024. Shanice's apartment. The apartment on Langford Avenue is quiet in the way that apartments are quiet between holidays. The residue of wrapping paper in the recycling bin, a new stuffed animal on Amara's bed, a giraffe, chosen by Amara herself at the mall, named Gerald, the smell of leftover sweet potato pie lingering in the kitchen. Shanice sits at the table with a cup of tea. The black notebook is closed. The folder is in the bedroom closet, filed in a box with other completed case materials. The USB drives are in a safe deposit box at a bank on Peachtree. The phone rings. Ms. Delacroix, it's Jolene Rask. My editor approved the story. It runs next week, January 3rd, print and digital. All right. But I need you to know, Whitmore's people are talking. They're calling you a plant, and saying the custody case was fabricated to entrap a sitting judge. The phrase they're using is activist targeting. It's showing up in emails between the Judicial Association and the County Commissioner's Office. The custody case was real. My daughter is real. The petition was filed by my ex-husband through his own attorney. Every document in the court record supports that. I know, and my story reflects that. But that's the counter-narrative they're building, and you should be prepared for it. Shanice looks across the room. Amara is on the living room floor, drawing with the new colored pencils she got for the holiday. A picture of a house with 3 windows and a door, and a tree beside it that is taller than the house, because Amara's trees are always taller than her houses. Thank you for calling, Ms. Rask. One more thing. The Thompson case. February, Whitmore's courtroom. LaKendra Thompson. I tracked her down. She's in Cobb County now. Shared custody, after she fought the modification for 11 months and spent $19,000 she didn't have on legal fees. She told me, Rask pauses. She told me she's glad someone finally documented it. She said she tried, but she didn't know how. She just knew something was wrong. Shanice does not respond for several seconds. Tell her I'm sorry it took this long. The call ends. Shanice sets the phone down and watches Amara draw. The giraffe, Gerald, is being added to the picture now, standing beside the tree, slightly taller than the house. January 3rd, 2025. 20s. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution publishes Jolene Rask's story. The headline reads, Fulton County family judge suspended after 14-month investigation reveals pattern of bias. The story runs 3,200 words. It names Whitmore, cites the JQC complaint, includes excerpts from the FOIA obtained email, and identifies the National Judicial Accountability Project as the organization that initiated the investigation. Shanice is identified by name and title. The cover, already broken in the courtroom, is now a matter of public record. The story does not go viral. It does not crash the internet or generate 1 million views. It does what good journalism does. It enters the public record, is cited by other outlets, and becomes a reference point for anyone who searches for Garland Whitmore's name, or Fulton County Family Court, or the phrase Judicial Misconduct, Georgia. Within a week, 6 more women contact Jolene Rask. 5 of them had cases in Whitmore's courtroom. 3 lost custody. 2 settled under pressure they now describe as coercive. The 6th is a courthouse employee who asks to speak off the record and provides information about 2 additional judges in the same division whose dockets show similar patterns. One of the 5 women is LaKendra Thompson. Rask interviews her by phone. Thompson lives in Cobb County now, a rented duplex, 2 bedrooms, her children visiting on alternating weekends under a custody arrangement she fought for 11 months and $19,000 to modify from the one Whitmore imposed. She speaks carefully, the way people speak when they have been burned by the system and are not yet certain that speaking will not burn them again. I knew something was wrong in that courtroom. First hearing, he didn't let me finish a sentence. My lawyer, court-appointed, overworked, showed up 10 minutes late, tried to object, and Whitmore told her to sit down. Literally said, "Sit down, counselor," in front of everybody. Rask asks if she considered filing a complaint. I did file one, June of last year. Filled out the form, mailed it certified. Got a letter back 8 weeks later. After review, the commission finds insufficient basis for investigation. That was it. 1 sentence. 8 weeks of waiting for 1 sentence. And the second time? There was no second time. I couldn't afford to keep fighting. My lawyer said Whitmore would hold it against me if I pushed back too hard. She said sometimes you have to accept an imperfect outcome and focus on what you can control. What could you control? Getting out? Moving? Starting over in a county where nobody knew my name or my case number? Rask asks about Shanice Delacroix. Thompson is quiet for a long time. I saw the article, read it twice, called my sister and read it to her. She cried. I didn't cry. I'm past crying about Whitmore. But I felt, I don't know how to describe it, like someone opened a window in a room that had been sealed shut for years and I could finally breathe in it. She pauses. Her voice changes. Not softer, but older. The voice of a woman who has survived something that the system told her wasn't happening. Tell Ms. Delacroix, that I'm glad someone documented it. I tried. I just didn't know how. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it. Rask includes the interview in her follow-up. She does not use Thompson's full name, at Thompson's request, but she uses the case number, the dates, the outcome, and the quote about the sealed room and the window. It is the most shared paragraph in the article. Rask publishes a follow-up on January 17th. The second story is shorter but sharper. Whitmore case prompts broader review of Fulton County family courts. The follow-up generates a response from the Fulton County Superior Court Chief Judge, a formal statement issued through the court's Public Information Office, expressing concern about the allegations and pledging a thorough review of family division procedures. The statement is 6 sentences long. It does not mention Whitmore by name. It does not acknowledge the JQC investigation. It uses the word committed 3 times and the word accountability once, and it is designed to signal institutional seriousness without committing to institutional change. Shanice reads the statement on her laptop at the kitchen table. She has read statements like this before, in other counties, other investigations, other notebooks. They are the verbal equivalent of Fisk's pending review tray, a place where urgency goes to be managed, deferred, and eventually forgotten. She closes the laptop and opens the DeKalb County docket data. February 2025. The OIG completes its review of Warren Price. The findings. The home visit report dated October 2, 2024, lacked evidentiary foundation and contained statements inconsistent with available evidence. Price is suspended without pay for 30 days and reassigned to a non-investigative role within DFCS. No criminal referral, no termination. Retraining required, 8 hours of continuing education in ethical documentation practices. 8 hours. For fabricating a report that could have been used to take a child from her mother. Shanice reads the OIG summary in her kitchen. She does not react visibly. She closes the document and opens her laptop to a new project, the one waiting for her in DeKalb County. Tremaine's internal review concludes on February 14th. The finding. Inconclusive. Security footage confirms the emergency stop was activated by Bailiff Tremaine, but the absence of audio prevents determination of whether threatening statements were made. Bailiff Tremaine has received a written reprimand and will be required to complete a 2-hour refresher course on professional conduct. A written reprimand. 2 hours. For trapping a woman in an elevator and threatening her. Shanice reads this result too. She sets it down on the table beside the OIG summary, and the two documents sit side by side like bookends holding up something too heavy to name, the weight of a system that investigates itself, disciplines itself, and returns to normal before the ink on the reprimand is dry. March 2025. The JQC full hearing is scheduled, then postponed. Whitmore's attorney files a motion for continuance, citing the need for additional discovery. Granted. New hearing date, May 2025. Whitmore remains on administrative leave, with pay. The parking space is still his. The nameplate is still on the door. Shanice receives a phone call from a contact at the NJAP National Office. DeKalb County, Family Court, Division B, 12 complaints in 9 months. Complaints in. Same pattern. Pro se litigants, custody modifications, disproportionate outcomes along demographic lines. I saw the data. We want you on it. Shanice looks at the calendar on her kitchen wall. Amara's school events are marked in purple. Field trip, March 14th. Spring concert, March 28th. Parent-teacher conference, April 2nd. The custody case is closed. The notebook is in the box. The cover in Fulton County is finished. I need 2 weeks to set up, and I need the target judge's full docket for the past 18 months. Already pulling it. She hangs up. Opens the desk drawer. Takes out a new notebook. Black cover, same brand, same size. Purchased in a 3-pack from the same office supply store on Peachtree where she bought the first one 14 months ago. She writes the date on the first page, and below it, 2 words. Entry 1. April 2025. The mail arrives on a Tuesday. Shanice sorts through it at the kitchen table. Electric bill, a flyer for a pizza place, a school newsletter, and a plain white envelope with no return address. Inside, a single card. Ivory stock, thick, the kind used for formal correspondence. Handwritten in blue-black ink, the letters slightly slanted. A hand trained in an era when penmanship was a professional skill. You did the right thing. Some of us inside see what you see. We just can't say it yet. A friend on the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor. The family court division. Someone inside the courthouse. Someone who watched. Someone who knew. Someone who stayed silent while Whitmore operated and Fisk routed and Tremaine enforced, has written to her. Who? She does not know. The handwriting is unfamiliar. The card carries no fingerprints she can identify, no postmark beyond Atlanta, no clue beyond the words themselves, and the floor number that places the author inside the machinery Shanice spent 14 months documenting. She turns the card over. Nothing on the back. No watermark. No embossing. Just smooth ivory stock and the faint indentation of handwriting on the reverse. The pressure of a pen held firmly by someone who wanted these words to be permanent. She holds the card for a long time, longer than she holds most pieces of evidence. Because this is not evidence. This is something else. A crack in the wall of institutional silence, a voice from inside the machine whispering that the machine knows what it is doing, that not everyone inside it approves, and that the cost of speaking up from within is high enough that anonymity is the only safe currency. Who wrote it? A clerk, a bailiff, a fellow judge who sat in chambers listening to Whitmore talk about his docket and felt the wrongness of it, but never found the right moment, or the right courage, to say so. Someone who watched 6 women lose custody of their children and went home every night knowing that the scales were weighted, that the outcomes were predetermined, that the system was working exactly the way someone wanted it to work. Someone who is still inside, still watching, still silent, but not, it turns out, entirely. She opens the old notebook, the one in the closet box, the one with 31 entries, and tucks the card inside the back cover. Not an entry, not evidence. Something else. Something that exists in the space between documentation and faith, between what the system does and what the people inside it wish it would do. She closes the box, returns it to the closet shelf. In the kitchen, Amara is doing homework, a worksheet about fractions, the pencil gripped with the intensity of a child who is determined to understand something that does not yet make sense. Gerald the giraffe sits on the chair beside her, propped against the table like a study partner. "Mama, can you help me with number 7? "Let me see." Shanice sits beside her daughter, looks at the problem, explains it, patiently, clearly, the way she explains everything when Amara is the audience. Fractions, parts of a whole, how one piece connects to another, how the pieces add up, how sometimes the answer is not a whole number but something in between. Amara writes the answer, looks up. "Is that right?" "That's exactly right." Outside, the spring rain falls on Langford Avenue. The street lights reflect in the puddles, fractured and golden. The courthouse on the other side of the city is dark at this hour, hallways empty, courtrooms locked, the 3rd floor silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights that never fully shut off. On that floor, behind the clerk's window, the computer screen is dark. The pending review tray is empty. The chair where Darlene Fisk sat for 6 years is occupied by someone new, a younger clerk transferred from traffic court, still learning the filing system. In the hearing room on the 7th floor of the state office building, the JQC investigative file remains open. 64 pages, 5 exhibits, 31 entries, 7 complaints, 6 women, and 1 email addressed to a recipient whose name is still hidden behind a rectangle of black ink, containing 2 words that no one has yet been able to explain. Fit the profile. The subpoena for the ISP records is under appeal. The appeal is under review. The review has no deadline. Somewhere in the system, someone knows who sent that email. Someone authorized the assignment of cases to Whitmore's docket based on criteria that selected for race, for vulnerability, for the likelihood that the person standing at the respondent's table would be too overwhelmed to fight back. That person has not been identified, has not been named, has not been held accountable. Not yet. The policy change was announced on March 15, 2025, enhanced procedural safeguards for pro-se litigants in Fulton County Family Court. Mandatory recording of all hearings, random supervisory review of family division proceedings, an independent complaint channel separate from the JQC. On paper, it looked like progress. In practice, the budget allocation was listed as pending, the staffing plan was under development, and the implementation timeline was to be determined. The policy was announced. Whether it would be enforced, that was a question no one in the system seemed eager to answer. Shanice Delacroix does not know the end of this story because the story has not ended. Whitmore is suspended, not removed. Price is reassigned, not fired. Tremaine wears a reprimand in his file like a parking ticket. Fisk types at a different window. Shelby takes cases from different judges. The system has acknowledged a problem and responded with the minimum force necessary to prevent the problem from becoming a scandal, and then it has returned to the business of being a system. But 31 entries exist in a notebook that cannot be unwritten. A 64-page dossier sits in the JQC file that cannot be unfiled. 6 women now have a name for what happened to them in courtroom 3B, and that name is pattern, and patterns, once named, are harder to deny. And in a 1-bedroom apartment on Langford Avenue, a woman sits at a kitchen table with a new notebook open to the first page, a cup of tea growing cold beside her, and a daughter doing fractions at the other end of the table. And she writes the date, and below it, 2 words, the same 2 words she wrote 14 months ago, when this began. The same 2 words she will write again, in a different county, in a different courtroom, against a different judge who believes that the people standing before the bench are powerless. Entry 1. The notebook opens. The pen meets the page. And somewhere in DeKalb County, a judge who has never heard the name Shanice Delacroix picks up a gavel and calls the next case. A custody modification, a pro se respondent, a woman sitting alone at the respondent's table with a folder and no attorney. The judge does not look closely at the woman, does not notice the way she sits, spine straight, hands flat, a small black notebook open on her lap. Does not notice the precision of her posture, the stillness of her gaze, the way she writes without looking down. Does not notice, because judges rarely look closely at the people they are about to silence. And in Fulton County, on the 3rd floor of a courthouse that still smells like industrial floor cleaner and burnt coffee, a new clerk sits behind the plexiglass. The pending review tray is empty. The filed bin is full. Administrative Order 2023-47 is still posted on the bulletin board behind the window, its edges curling slightly from the humidity, its text unchanged. Self-represented parties may file documents in paper form at the clerk's window during regular business hours. The sign has been there for over a year. It was there before Shanice. It was there before the 7 complaints. It was there before the 64-page dossier, before the email that said, "Fit the profile," before the elevator footage and the lobby footage and the parking lot recording. The sign was always there. The rules were always there. The protections were always written. The question was never whether the rules existed. The question was whether anyone was watching to see if they were followed. Now, someone is. Entry 1. End of Part 2. End.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. If you found the content helpful, please remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming episodes. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. We are always here to listen.